Gavin Newsom appeared on the Sean Ryan Show, and
okay. We don't need... Wait, why is my camera not on? What? Oh, that's the capture card. There we go. Oh, interesting. I need to change that. I have my capture card on, not my webcam. Okay. I'll have to figure that out later. Browser, ChatGPT. There we go. The only reason these need to be reset is because I closed the window. I think if I raise it up like that, I think that's good. And we'll test it out. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it works. So I had some people give me some feedback saying that the music was too loud and that I was too quiet. Probably because I don't speak into the mic. I probably need to move my mic. I'll worry about that later this week, about how I'm going to move my mic. Because when I talk directly into it, it sounds fine. But a lot of times I'm talking like this. So that's not fine. And we're going to use different music. A channel that I know is royalty free. Cool. Okay. Getting a little bit of a late start. Played games probably way too long last night, but it was fun. We got double music going. There we go. And this needs to be ChatGPT. And then that should do it, right? Oh, whoops. Don't want to dox myself here. Look, we all look up weird things on ChatGPT. Don't be judging, you know what I'm saying? It is already ungodly hot in my room. Okay. And we'll do a little quick test run here.
So unlike WDS bridged mode in enterprise setups, Eero bridge mode keeps client Wi-Fi alive. It just passes off network control to your main router or gateway, like a server or modem.
So that's working. We are working with number 3, section 3, which is network operations. Let's get it going. It's supposed to take 6 minutes. I highly doubt that. I have a feeling it's gonna take way longer than that. There we go. Ooh.
A company requested a sysadmin to set up a plan in case of issues arising from systems going down. Part of that plan involves procedures to bring the system back online, restore data, and how to communicate that issue and its resolution to the company. What kind of plan would best define what the sysadmin needs to set up?
I forgot to go get my tea. I'm gonna go get tea as soon as I answer this. Okay, so actually, no, I'm gonna go get tea right now, and then we'll do it. Here, enjoy the tunes. We'll be back in like 2 minutes. No, 2 seconds. That's what I meant to say. All right, we're back. I have tea. I feel better about life. Okay, here we go. And we'll turn this back down. Do the thing.
A company requested a sysadmin to set up a plan in case of issues arising from systems going down. Part of that plan involves procedures to bring the system back online, restore data, and how to communicate that issue and its resolution to the company. What kind of plan would best define what the sysadmin needs to set up?
Change management. So whenever they're going to do anything about any type of technology, deployments, update, anything, there's something called a scope. And that scope is what is everything that's going to mess with. So you got to figure out the scope first, and then you have to come up with a management plan. You have to think about what systems are going to go down, what systems are going to go up, basically have a full plan from start to finish and everything that's going to happen in between. Okay, it's not data loss. At least it shouldn't be. There is no incident. This is a planned thing. A company requests sysadmin to set up a plan in case of issues. Okay, so they're not deploying an update. What they're doing is they are trying to come up with a management plan. So change management. I'm uncertain of my answer. Part of the plan involves procedures. Or part of the plan involves procedures to bring everything back on. So this is risk management, basically. Like, in case of an issue, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get systems back on, restore data, and how are we gonna communicate the issues? I'm still gonna stick with it. Well, it's not change management. I'm gonna say acceptable use. Dang it.
What kind of agreement helps shield both the customer and vendor from legal risk and enforces a standard for what the customer should expect from a vendor?
Vendorum. Understanding. I'm gonna say acceptable use. Actually, I think it's this. I just don't know what this word is. No. I'm gonna pick it. I was wrong. Dang it. Man, there's some of these sections that I just do not remember doing.
What does end-of-life EOL phase signify for a product?
Hey, end of life. That's exactly what's going on with Stop Killing Games. They don't have an end-of-life plan. Weird. What does end-of-life phase signify for a product? The product is being launched. The product is no longer being sold. The product is in its peak sales. The product has received its final update. I'm going to say the product has received its final update. Man, the product is no longer being sold? What does end of life phase signify? It's definitely not launch. Okay. I need a new arm for my thing too. Not gonna lie.
What role does a change advisory board, CAB, play in change management?
You know what? I think we're gonna move things. This might move some things. Hold on. There we go. This way I can look at it this way, and I don't have to like be at a weird angle for to make sure that I'm directly into this. Okay. What role does a change advisory board, a CAB, play in change management? Applies the change directly. Change advisory board. It approves major or significant changes. It creates or requests change. I'm going to say approves. Yes. I don't know where my thingy is.
A company is developing a new office and has tasked the information technology department with creating a document to show where their electrical vendor needs to run electrical and internet cabling throughout the office. What kind of diagram would best accomplish this?
Site survey. Oh, site survey is when they go to the location and literally survey the situation. He needed a floor plan, a diagram. Man, I am so like out of it. I'm having a hard time concentrating. I gotta wake up. We got 5 more sections. Let's go. All right, let's see here.
A piece of networking equipment had a change made to it that has caused too many issues for the network engineer to try to fix. Instead, the engineer wants to roll back to the configuration originally established with the initial equipment setup. The sysadmin is rolling back to what type of configuration?
A baseline. All right, man. I'm 2 for 6. My batting average is not good. Where's my thing?
Developers and manufacturers release security bulletins, version changes, and updates to prevent application compatibility problems resulting from service releases. Which of the following terms accurately defines this process?
Developers and manufacturers release security bulletins, version changes, and updates to prevent application compatibility. Patch management? Yeah. How do I not remember doing this? Where's my thing? No, that's not it.
A help desk technician is working with the sysadmin to clean up old servers and network equipment in their tech closet. The help desk technician is having issues finding which server is the one that needs decommissioning. What kind of diagram would help the technician find the correct server?
A rack. All right, here we go. Man. Where's my thing? Because I don't want to have to hit the hotkey every single time. This stream is, I feel like it's all over the place. All right, here we go.
A company requested a sysadmin to set up a plan in case of issues arising from systems going down. Part of that plan involves procedures to bring the system back online, restore data, and how to communicate that issue and its resolution to the company. What kind of plan would best define what the sysadmin needs to set up?
So incident makes total sense because of the word incident. The reason I didn't pick that is because it didn't have the word plan next to it. It just said incident. So then I was like, well, like this is not an incident. It's a plan for an incident. It is incident management is what it is, or something like that. So, and even down here, the answer is an incident response plan. It didn't say incident response plan. It just said incident. That's dumb. What kind of plan? Oh, so because it put the other part of it. What kind of plan would best define what the sysadmin needs? An incident plan. That's a dirty question. Some of these questions are dirty. All right, let's read through these to see what the other ones are.
An
feel like this
incident
section's
response
easy.
plan sets out the procedures, tools, methods of communication, and guidelines for dealing with security incidents. An incident occurs when there is a security breach or an attempted breach. An acceptable use policy, AOP, sets out the permitted uses of a product or service. It might also state explicitly prohibited uses. Organizations might use such a policy in different contexts. Data loss prevention, DLP, is a software solution that detects and prevents sensitive information from being stored on unauthorized systems or transmitted over unauthorized networks. A documented change management process minimizes the risk of unscheduled downtime by implementing changes in a planned and controlled way.
Yeah, see, that's what I was right about that. Sucks. You can't be hitting things with your tail. Man, I'm tired. All right, end of life plan. The product is no longer being sold. Ah. So then this might be where like Stop Killing Games gets the terminology a little wrong, because that's what they want. They want an end of life plan. However, a lot of these games are still being sold. Their end of life is just stopping, because you can stop selling a product and still maintain its servers or maintain it until you phase it out. Well, and that's probably one of the issues too, is that there is no there's not a plan for that. Anyway, let's see what the other ones are.
The product is no longer being sold.
That is not what I highlighted. That's okay. All right, last attempt. The end-of-life phase incident indicates that the manufacturer has discontinued sales of the product, leading to limited support and availability of parts and updates. Launching a product is the beginning of its life cycle, not the end. Peak sales typically occur before end-of-life phase, while a final update may occur around the end of life. The defining feature of end of life is the discontinuation of sales and limited support. I remember when Digimon, I think it was Re-Rise, when that game went under. It was a live service game. The last week, everything was free. Like the last month or something like that. Like everything was free. I believe they even credited back quite a bit of money to a lot of people. Like they didn't credit back all of the money, but there was like I'm pretty sure that there was a timeline. It was like, well, hey, look, basically if you bought anything from this date onward, we're gonna give you back your money, or we're gonna give you in-game credit, so that way you can get everything, and everything was basically free. So floor plan. I need to turn on my brain. Some of these are really easy and I got them wrong.
A company is developing a new office and has tasked the Information Technology Department with creating a document to show where their electrical vendor needs to run electrical and internet cabling throughout the office.
Of course it's a
What
floor
kind of
plan.
diagram would best accomplish this? A floor plan is a detailed diagram of wiring and port locations. For example, the IT department might use floor plans to document wall port locations and cable runs in an office. A wiring diagram, or pinout, shows detailed information about the termination of twisted pairs in an RJ45 or RJ48C jack, or insulation displacement connector, IDC. A rack diagram records the position of each appliance in the rack. A site survey is a critical planning tool to ensure that the wireless local area network, WLAN, delivers acceptable data rates to the supported number of devices in all the physical locations expected.
All right, next one. Service level. Now this one I legitimately didn't know. Well, I did know, but I didn't know what this word meant.
What kind of agreement helps shield both the customer and vendor from legal risk and enforces a standard for what the customer should expect from a vendor? A service level agreement, SLA, is a contractual agreement setting out the detailed terms provided under an ongoing service. Security policy establishes a duty for each employee to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of any data assets or processing systems that they use as part of their job. A Memorandum of Understanding, MU, is a preliminary or exploratory agreement to express an intent to work together. MUs usually intend to be relatively informal and not to act as binding contracts. An acceptable use policy, AOP, sets out the permitted uses of a product or service. It might also state explicitly prohibited uses.
I want to read this one more time.
A Memorandum of Understanding, MU, is a preliminary or exploratory agreement to express an intent to work together. MUs usually intend to be relatively informal and not to act as binding contracts.
Okay, I remember those now. Because it's like, it doesn't matter, but at the same time, like, it's just a way of being respectful. Like, hey, I intend to work with you. Here is this memorandum. I can't say that word very well. But at the same time, it's like, why do you need that? Okay. Next.
The Chief Information Officer canceled a contract with a third-party vendor as they refused to sign a contract to limit what uses of sensitive data are permitted, what storage and distribution restrictions to enforce, and what penalties to incur for breaches of the agreement. What kind of contract did the vendor fail to sign?
NDA. So that was the sales agreement. That was the Minandum. I can't say that word. The one that we just read. I'm not sure what an AUP is. I probably should have done it unsure, so that way I could have read what that was.
A CompTIA AC's main file server crashed, requiring the sysadmin to restore data. However, the Information Technology Department received complaints that no one sent any communication informing employees of the issue. What kind of plan would have helped to prevent these complaints?
An incident plan. Incident.
A company is developing a new office and has tasked the Information Technology Department with creating a document to show where their electrical vendor needs to run electrical and internet cabling throughout the office.
Floor plan.
What kind of diagram would best accomplish this?
Don't get it confused with a wiring plan. Or wiring thing.
What illustrates the network architecture of a group of interconnected network equipment without involving a precise layout?
Not baseline. That's like when you roll back a computer. Not site survey. That's when you go to the place to see what needs to get done. You're assessing the situation. Physical topology is like the building. Like it has like pictures of the building, and it'll be more of like a floor plan type of thing, but in terms of network. The logical topology is literally just like a diagram of where all of the wires and where all the routers and like all this stuff is going. What illustrates the network architecture of a group of interconnected networks equipped without involving a precise layout. It's going to be, I'm assuming precise layout means the physical, like where it's precisely at. So like in the logical topology could be like you have a building A, building B, and they both have routers and like switches and devices. If you look at a logical topology, you're just going to see those things. It's not going to have anything that's going to show that they're in two separate buildings.
A network administrator is setting up new address pools on a dynamic host configuration protocol DHCP server and is having difficulty remembering available Internet Protocol IP addresses. Which of the following would make the management of allocated IP addresses on the network easier?
Not external DNS server. An NTP server. I think it's going to be scope options. Because the scope... See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why it's hard. Because, like, scope is a word that means multiple things. In this context, scope is the amount of IP addresses that the DHCP server has, and that it's allotting for each subnet. So it must have been one of these two that I don't remember. It must be this one. An IPAM, which is an IPAM. I don't know what that is, but it has IP in it.
What is the primary purpose of configuration management processes in network appliances?
Ooh, what is the primary purpose of configuration management processes? Configuration management. What we got?
To increase the processing speed of devices, to ensure all network appliances are in a known state, to enhance the graphical user interface of network management tools, to reduce the cost of network maintenance.
Okay, the purpose of configuration management. No, has nothing to do with speed. To ensure all network appliances are in a known state. Maybe to enhance the graphical. No, we don't care about the GUI. Reduce the cost of network maintenance. I'm going to go with this one. Yes.
As part of their sales and onboarding practices, a managed service provider requires prospective clients to allow them to identify and record all assets, their age, warranty, and performance. What type of report is this managed service provider completing?
Service level agreement. It's not baseline. That's what happens when you roll back to a earlier version of like a computer. Logical network diagram. No. An audit. Ooh, audit. Okay. As a part of their sales, the onboarding practices a managed service provider requires prospective clients to allow them to identify and record all assets, their age, warranty. Okay. It's not a service level agreement. This is an audit. Yes. Service level agreement is where you have, like, I'm selling you something and there's agreement that, like, I'm selling you something that you know is going to, or that I know works, and you are under the expectation that it's going to work. I'm pretty sure I got that right.
What does end-of-life EOL phase signify for a product?
That is no longer being sold. There we go. One of one. Yeah, IPAM. Let's figure
A
out what
network
IPAM is.
administrator is setting up new address pools on a dynamic host configuration protocol DHCP server and is having difficulty remembering available Internet Protocol IP addresses. Which of the following would make the management of allocated IP addresses on the network easier? Smart refresher. 3. IPAM or Internet Protocol IP address management is designed to scale.
I hate these acronyms, bro. Oh my god. If I would have just known what the acronym stood for, I would have got it right. Internet Protocol Address Management. So IP address management. Flip. Okay. Is designed to scan the DHCP and domain name server, so the DNS server, and IP and all the log IP. Jesus Christ, all the log IP usage to a database. It can be used to manage and reconfigure DHCP and DNS servers remotely. So IPAM doesn't just do this, doesn't just have like a pool and like, hey, let me keep a categorized thing of all these numbers so that way we know what's been used and what hasn't been used. It also takes care of the DNS. So like, and what DNS does is it translates what those numbers, what those IP address into English, into what the names that have been assigned to them are. So it does both. Like, it's going to make you a chart of all the IP addresses and its relating names. It's related DNS names. That's exactly what we need. Okay.
From legal risk and enforces a standard for what the customer should expect from a vendor.
What kind of agreement helps shield both customer? Yeah, it's this one.
A chief information officer needs to prepare a process for the purchase, maintenance, and decommissioning of assets in the company. The CIO wants to ensure properly supported equipment. What kind of roadmap would help the CIO accomplish this task?
He needs to prepare a process for purchasing and maintenance and decommissioning. Okay, so the beginning, the during, and then the end of assets in a company. I'm going to say standard operation procedures. Dang it, dude, but it could also be life cycle. No, system life cycle. Well, no. I'm going to go with system life cycle because it's purchasing, which is birth, maintenance, which is life, and then decommission, which is the end. Standard operation procedures would be like the process of buying, the process of maintaining, the process of decommissioning. Let's go!
A network administrator is setting up new address pools on a dynamic host configuration protocol DHCP server and is having difficulty remembering available Internet Protocol IP addresses. Which of the following would make the management of allocated IP addresses on the network easier?
Yeah, we already talked about that.
A company requested a sysadmin to set up a plan in case of issues arising from systems going down.
Incident.
Part of that plan involves procedures to bring the system back online.
What kind of plan would best define this? An incident plan. Don't get thrown off like I did just because it doesn't have the word plan in the answer choice.
Electrical and internet cabling throughout the office. A company is developing a new office and has tasked the information technology department with creating a document to show where their electrical vendor needs to run electrical and internet cabling throughout the office. What kind of diagram would best accomplish this?
Floor plan. A rack diagram tells you where everything is in the rack. Tells you where the servers are. Tells you all that different stuff. How it's connected. Everything. I got so much cat hair. All over everything. All right. So the rack is the diagram of the actual rack where the servers are, where the switches are, where the router is, where the firewall, what anything and everything. It's all there and it's going to be laid out. Site surveys where you go to the location itself in order to assess the situation. Floor plan or floor diagram rather is going to be where the electrical wires lay. And then a wiring diagram is how it's wired on a terminal. Man, I can picture it, but you basically like hardwire in all the wires into, I can't think of the word, into the box, and then there's a diagram on the other side when you open it, and it tells you what it all is. End of life phase means that the product is no longer being sold.
A chief investment officer signed a preliminary agreement with a vendor to express an intent to work together.
This one.
A network administrator is setting up new address pools on a dynamic host configuration protocol DHCP server.
Yep. Okay, that one was pretty easy. I'm just not thinking straight because I'm like tired. I stayed up way too late playing Mario. Oh my god. All right, here we go. 3.2.
What kind of log would help? A sysadmin is trying to understand what is causing the company's virtual private network connections to fail. What kind of log would help the sysadmin track down the issue?
I would say a syslog. Yeah. So what a syslog does is it literally logs all of the information that comes in and out, and if I remember correctly, it pings when things go down. Like the area.
A network engineer suggests using a packet sniffer to capture traffic for troubleshooting purposes. What configuration on a switch allows for this capability? Select 2.
I think I'm wrong.
What describes the function of a switch that gathers and sends out device statistics and issues alerts?
It's not a runt. A runt is when you have packets that collide. Because when packets collide, they get destroyed. And a runt is what's left over. Baseline's when you roll back. A giant, that's a really big packet. It's got to be this one. But I don't remember what SNPT trap is. So we're going to say unsure. So that way we can get a good definition of it.
Question I. What is the primary function of an availability monitor? Answer: to increase the speed of a servicito, trigger an alarm for service unscheduled downtime, manage network bandwidth, update digital certificate TC.
Wow, I feel like it went in overdrive. What is the primary function of availability monitor? To manage network bandwidth. I'm not sure. We're gonna... Yeah. I figured it was that. Okay, so here's why I thought it was that one. Because why would an availability monitor increase speed of service? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, manage network bandwidth. I mean, possibly, because if something's available, then that means that it's empty and that it can go. Update digital certifications has nothing to do with it. Trigger an alarm for service unscheduled downtime. So downtime means availability. So that's why I went with it.
Compliance. A security analyst is using a method to aggregate logs from multiple sources. This tool can provide a long-term retention function and be used to demonstrate regulatory compliance. What is this method called?
Oh, okay. Security information and event management. Maybe. Man, I don't know. Okay. A security analyst is using a method to aggregate logs from multiple sources. This tool can provide a long-term retention function and be used to demonstrate regular compliance. I don't know, man. I can't. Oh, I need some tea. I can't think. I think it's this one. This one makes the most sense. But until my brain wakes up a little bit more.
What do emergency, critical, and informational lines in a syslog refer to?
Emergency and critical. Security levels. Encapsulation errors. Then it's security levels and logging levels. There's no way it's link state. Link state just is like it's up or it's down.
What technology gathers only traffic flow data and reports it to a structured database?
It's not DHCP. That's like your private IP addresses. Not DNS. That translates IP addresses into English or into words. So those are out. SNMP. I am fairly certain that is email. Something mail protocol, which leaves NetFlow. Which technology gathers only traffic flow data and reports it? We're gonna go with NetFlow. Yeah, I only put unsure because I want to make sure I know what this is. Oh man, I'm way too tired to read this many things. Honestly, I'm not actually reading. It's reading it to me, but still having the cognitive thought. Oh my god, I'm never playing Mario until midnight ever again. This is the worst.
As the head of IT security for a financial institution, you are responsible for safeguarding the integrity and security of the bank's network infrastructure. Given the sensitive nature of financial data and the regulatory requirements for data protection, you decide to enhance your security posture by implementing a robust configuration monitoring strategy. This strategy is aimed at ensuring that all network devices remain in compliance with the bank's security policies and that any unauthorized changes are detected and addressed promptly. Which of the following actions would be most effective in achieving a comprehensive configuration monitoring strategy for the bank's network devices? Select 2.
Okay.
Implement a change management process that requires all configuration changes to be approved by the IT security team before being applied. Use tools capable of identifying line-by-line differences between the production and baseline configurations of network devices. Regularly generate and review reports that highlight any changes made to the production configuration of network devices compared to the baseline configuration. Install additional antivirus software on all network devices to prevent unauthorized changes.
Okay. So when you're dealing with a very wordy question and you're tired, like how I am right now, like this get like chances of this happening in the test pretty high. I mean, let's be honest. How often are you ever like well rested? Probably never. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're probably never well rested. I'm never well rested. Well, I'm not gonna say that. I work really hard to make sure I get 8 hours of sleep. But the average person is usually very not well rested. So you need to kind of figure it out. So what you gotta do is, or what I do is, I read everything first once to see if I can just kind of passively catch something. I didn't passively catch anything. So now what I need to do is I need to go back into the big word question, and I need to do the same exact thing that I do with everything else. What's fluff and what is actual meat, and then what is the actual question. So the actual question is, which of the following actions would most effectively, so we're not looking for like a perfect answer, we're looking for the most effective answer in achieving a comprehensive configuration monitoring strategy for the bank's devices. So as a head of IT, okay, it's fluff, it's just setting it up. Financial institute, you are responsible for safeguarding integrity of the security bank. Okay, got it. Given the severity nature of financial data, sensitive nature of financial data, and the regulatory requirements for data protection, you decide to enhance the security procedure by implementing implementing robust configuration monitoring strategy. So you're coming up with a robust way to monitor the assets, basically. Okay, this strategy is aimed to ensuring that all network devices remain in compliance. So the whole idea is to make sure that all network devices are always in compliance with the bank's security policy, and any unauthorized changes are detected. So we need two things. One, we need to make sure that we can monitor, or sorry, I guess three things. We need to monitor all devices. We need to make sure that they are all in compliant to the security policy, and we need to be able to detect any changes and address them promptly. So we need compliance, and we need to detect when we don't have compliance. Really, two things. So implement a change management process that requires all configuration changes to be approved by IT security team before they are applied. Okay, so technically this would work. This sucks. This would slow so many things down, because now everything has to get approved by IT. I know quite a few schools who go this route because they cannot trust the technological intelligence of their teachers in order to be smart about what they're downloading onto their computers. Okay. So like literally anything other than like a picture that you rip from Google has to have approval. It's pretty crazy. It slows down a lot of things, and then it leads to a bunch of really unpleasant conversations because teachers are trying to get XYZ, but they didn't look at the database that they already had. Anyway, where they already had an access to it. to a similar thing. The use tools capable of identifying line by line differences between the product and baseline configurations of the network device. This is also extremely thorough, okay? But this means that we have to go line by line. This is also going to be very, very slow. Regularly generate and review reports that highlight any changes made to the production configuration of network devices compared to the baseline configuration. Okay, so far, this is the easiest one. Here's why. This one's going line by line and just seeing if there's differences between the product and the baseline. This is generating a review that reports and highlights. It's basically pooping it all out. Here's the baseline. Here's what's going on. Here's the changes. So far, that's a really good one. Still sucks, but at least it's manageable. Install additional antivirus software on all network devices to prevent unauthorized changes. I'm going to go with this one because these are the most effective. Efficient. Wait, what is that word? Effective?
Effective.
Ah, so we're not even looking for efficient. We're looking for effective. Okay, we're going to go with it. All of that explanation just to be wrong. What a clown. What a clown. Ah, port security.
Network engineer suggests using a packet sniffer to capture traffic for troubleshooting purposes. What configuration on a switch allows for this capability?
Port
Select
security and switch port analyzer.
By default, sniffing of unicast traffic by hosts attached to the same switch is prevented. Port mirroring copies all packets sent to one or more source ports to a mirror or destination port. There are circumstances in which capturing and analyzing network traffic is a legitimate activity. This capability can be configured on a Cisco switch and referred to as a switched port analyzer span.
I need more of an answer. I did not realize how sleepy I was. No, we're on section 2. Okay, yeah, we're moving. We're moving. But as my dad always says, there's no rest for the weary. Wait, he used to say something. It was like, happy or sad, sunny or rainy, there's still work to be. No. Happy or sad, sunshine or rain, dead or alive, there's always work that needs to be done. And whether you do it or not, it still needs to get done. Something like that. He had something saying like that. I can't remember. All right, what do we got?
Let's walk through this multiple answer question in full detail using your preferred format. 1. Restate the question. What configurations on a switch allow a packet sniffer to capture traffic for troubleshooting purposes? Select 2 correct answers. 2. Simplified answer. Switched port analyzer span, port mirroring. These are 2 names for the same feature. They allow a switch to copy traffic from one port or VLAN to another port, where a sniffer like Wireshark can analyze it. 3. Analogy. Imagine a security guard packet sniffer who needs to observe all the conversations in a building. Normally, each conversation happens in private rooms like switch ports. Port mirroring or span installs microphones in those rooms and routes the audio to a control room. Now the security guard can listen in without interfering. 4. In-depth explanation. Let's break down each option. Switched port analyzer. 3. Analogy. Imagine a security guard packet sniffer who needs to observe all the conversations in a building. Normally, each conversation happens in private rooms like switch ports. Port mirroring or span installs microphones in those rooms and routes the audio to a control room. Now the security guard can listen in without interfering. 4. In-depth explanation. Let's break down each option. Switched port analyzer spans Cisco's name for port mirroring. Configures a source port where traffic happens and a destination port where traffic is copied for sniffing. Used in enterprise networks to troubleshoot issues or monitor suspicious activity. Port mirroring. Generic term for the same concept. Supported by most managed switches. Essential for using tools like Wireshark or TCP dump. Port security. Restricts which MAC addresses can send traffic on a port, used for access control and protection, not monitoring or sniffing. Port tagging refers to VLAN tagging using protocols like 802.1q, related to VLAN traffic handling, not packet capture. 5. Real-world example or scenario. A network engineer is diagnosing packet loss in a VoIP system. They connect a laptop running Wireshark to a switch port configured with SPAN. The switch mirrors traffic from the VoIP phone port to the laptop. The engineer can now analyze traffic patterns, jitter, and dropped packets without interrupting the actual conversation.
Wow.
Let me know when you're ready for the next question. By default, sniffing of unicast traffic by hosts attached to the same switch is prevented. Port mirroring copies all packets sent to one or more source ports to a mirror or destination port. There are circumstances in which capturing and analyzing network traffic is a legitimate activity. This capability can be configured on a Cisco switch and referred to as a switched port analyzer span. A tagged port refers to a virtual LAN VLAN configuration and will normally be operating as a trunk.
Yes, okay, we learned about that, where you tag VLANs so that way it's like, think of a stick that was hollow that has cars going in it. All those cars are people having their own conversations, right? And they're transferring, and they're all inside of a stick. And then you take all the sticks and you wrap them, a group full of sticks together. This is an awful analogy. That the sticks are the VLANs, and the VLANs that are being wrapped together is the trunk. And they have to be tagged properly.
That is, it is capable of transporting traffic addressed to multiple VLANs. A port security configuration validates the MAC address of end systems that connect to a switch port.
Okay. Manu. Dang it, boy. I'm trying to become the greatest technician that's ever lived. Okay? Because I want to be the best, the very best, like no one ever was. Alright, logging levels. Why is it not encapsulation errors?
Encapsulation is the frame format expected on the interface. Encapsulation errors will prevent transmission and reception. If the sysadmin checks the interface status, the physical link will list it as up, but the line protocol will list it as down.
So encapsulation errors are either up or down, just like link state. So I mean, log levels and security levels are the only thing that gets emergency and critical. And honestly, using vocabulary words. Hold on, I'm trying to get my mic to point up a little bit more. Okay, so in terms of vocabulary words, link state and encapsulation errors don't really lend itself to being called emergency or critical. They could, but logging levels and security levels, in my mind at least, like it's an emergency level. It is a critical level. If nothing else, that's how I'm gonna think of it and memorize it. Next. Oh, buddy, this is the big one. This was the big one. Okay, we're not gonna read it again. We're just gonna hit the highlight. So, you're in IT security for a financial institution, and you are trying to enhance the security procedures. And by doing that, you are wanting to implement a robust configuration monitoring strategy. So that way you can ensure that all network devices remain compliant to the bank's security policies and unauthorized changes are detected and addressed promptly. The answers to this was using tools compatible of identifying line-by-line differences between the product. So this makes sense, and I almost picked this one. This is a better answer than this one. What I want to know is why installing additional antivirus software on all network devices to prevent unauthorized changes. Like, why is that not efficient? Let's see what, here it is.
Antivirus software is important for detecting and preventing malware infections, but it does not specifically monitor or report on configuration changes. Antivirus solutions are not typically designed to track configuration changes or ensure compliance with baseline configurations.
Okay, that makes sense. There you go, boy.
Regularly generate and review reports that highlight any changes made to the production configuration of network devices compared to the baseline configuration. Regularly generating and reviewing reports that compare current configurations with baseline configurations is crucial for identifying unauthorized or unintended changes. This practice helps in quickly spotting deviations that could compromise the security or integrity of the network, allowing for timely remediation. Use tools capable of identifying line-by-line differences between the production and baseline configurations of network devices. Tools that can identify specific differences between production and baseline configurations provide a detailed understanding of what has changed. This granularity is essential for assessing the impact of the changes on security and compliance, enabling targeted actions to revert unauthorized changes or further secure the network.
Okay. So we have these answer choices. We have preventative and we have preventative, not monitoring. Now, in a sense, this is monitoring because you're preventing the person. You're causing a filter, a physical filter, which is you, that you have to approve all things, right? You have to approve all things. However, that's not going to monitor to see if things are going well or not. You know, same thing with this. This is again preventative. It's not going to monitor and tell you when something is wrong. These do. Okay, that makes sense. Business impact analysis. That's what I thought. Oh no. I thought it was both of these. Okay. We're gonna have ChatGPT help us out with this because I want to make sure that I understand what all these things are. Why it generates, let's read this.
Security Information and Event Management (SIEM) is a security control designed to integrate vulnerability and threat assessment efforts through the automated collection, aggregation, and analysis of log data. Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures (CVE) is a dictionary of vulnerabilities in published operating systems and application software. Business Impact Analysis (BIA) is the process of assessing what losses might occur for a range of threat scenarios. Privileged Access Management (PAM) refers to policies, procedures, and technical controls to prevent the malicious abuse of privileged accounts by internal threat actors and to mitigate risk from weak configurations over privileges.
Okay.
Let's break down the security logging question using your full format. 1. Restate the question. What method is used by a security analyst to collect logs from many sources, allow for long-term storage, and help with regulatory compliance? 2. Simplified answer. Security Information and Event Management (CM). This is the correct method for log aggregation, retention, and compliance reporting. 3. Analogy. Imagine a security control center that collects video feeds from every camera in a city, records them for months, and sends alerts if anything suspicious happens. That's what a SIEM does with network and system logs.
Okay.
It's the digital equivalent of a high-tech surveillance
God, I
hub
love
for your
these
IT
analogies.
environment. 4. In-depth explanation. Security Information and Event Management (SIEM), a SIEM system, collects logs from firewalls, servers, apps, and endpoints, analyzes and correlates data to detect security events, stores logs long-term, often required by regulations. HIPAA, PCI DSS, etc. helps with real-time monitoring, alerting, forensics, and compliance audits. Tools, Splunk, IBM Cradar, ArcSight, Logarithm, etc. Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures (CVE), a public database of known vulnerabilities. Helps identify what to patch, not for log aggregation.
Oh, that's right. CVE. There's like this Reddit forum. It's not Reddit. There's like this forum, this something where it is common vulner. No. I'm getting it confused. No. That's it. Public database of known vulnerabilities. So it's just like this collection of vulnerabilities, and so that way people can be like, hey, this is a vulnerability that I have. What is the solution for it? Or, like, I think everything is fine. Let me look and see what am I not thinking of kind of thing. There's also another one where it's a database of like all viruses or like all malware. So that way you can look at it and be like, hey, this is what I'm being attacked with. What is the solution? How do I stop it?
Impact Analysis, BIA, a risk management tool to evaluate the impact of disruptions to operations. Used for planning, not for collecting or storing logs. Privileged Access Management, PAM, manages and controls elevated user accounts, for example, admins. Prevents abuse of high-level privileges, not for logging or retention. 5. Real-world example or scenario. A healthcare company must comply with HIPAA regulations, which require log retention and breach detection. They deploy Splunk SIEM to collect logs from firewalls, EHR systems, and employee workstations. The SIEM retains logs for 1 year, alerts on suspicious login attempts, and provides detailed compliance reports during audits, saving time and ensuring legal compliance.
Man, 1 year.
Ready for your next question when you are?
That is a long time to be holding on to data. But then again, is it really? Because how many photos in your phone have you been holding on to for the last 15 years? You know what I'm saying? All right. Common vulnerability exposure, business impact analysis, privilege access management. Privilege access management is the only one that I was having a hard time understanding. Management and control elevated user accounts, admins. Prevents abuse of high-level privileges, not for logging. Oh, okay. So it basically says you're an admin, but well, okay, it doesn't say how it does it. It just says what it does. It's just preventing abuse of high-level privileges. Okay, this one time I was in charge of graduation at the high school I was working at, and I was real good friends with the tech team. Me and the tech team were tight, dude, and they were so funny. He opened up his computer and he was like, these are all the packets that will not be lost today. And he started going through, because, you know, everyone's attaching, getting connected to the Wi-Fi or whatever. And he goes through and he starts finding people whose their phone name is like inappropriate thing. So like Big Daddy 6969 or, you know, something stupid like that. And he's like, and access denied. He just was going through the list of all, like, there must have been like, I don't know, 1,000 people there, and he was just kind of casually going through the list of all the phones that were connected to the Wi-Fi, and he was like, yeah, if you have an inappropriate name, I don't think you deserve Wi-Fi. Deny. It was funny. It was really funny. Okay, anyway, let's look at this thing. The reason I did this is because I wanted to make sure I understood what this is, which I think that I do now.
A simple network management protocol, SNMP trap, is an agent that informs the SNMP monitor of a notable event, port failure for instance. The sysadmin can set the threshold for triggering traps for each value.
Okay, that makes sense, because I know what the other ones are.
The correct answer is to trigger an alert or alarm if a service experiences unscheduled downtime. Availability monitors are designed to detect when a host or service goes down unexpectedly and notify the relevant parties, ensuring that any issues can be addressed promptly to minimize downtime.
All right.
The correct answer is NetFlow. NetFlow is a network protocol developed by Cisco for collecting IP traffic flow data. It provides valuable insights into network traffic patterns by reporting this data to a structured database, aiding in network analysis and management. SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol, is used for managing devices on IP networks, but it does not specifically gather traffic flow data like NetFlow.
Okay.
Smart Power Distribution Units, PDUs, are mounted and networked in each rack enclosure in a small data center. Management would like to keep track of the power data and feed it to an analytical application. However, the data must be encrypted in transit. How can the network team secure the power data in transit? Select 2.
Did we learn what SNP MP is? Enable dynamic ARP inspection. I have a feeling that has nothing to do with, because ARP has nothing to do with encryption, so that one's out. Set up a RA guard. I don't know what an RA guard is. Enable a configure only SNMP v3. We're just gonna Google that real quick. I'm tired of not knowing what that is. Simple Network Management Protocol version 3. Okay, I did know what this is. Is the last and most the latest and most very secure. Okay, so obviously it's that one. And then configure a private VLAN. I want to know what RA guard is. No, not stupid. Gotta be careful when you're Googling some of this stuff, because sometimes it's gonna pop up like the wrong thing just because multiple acronyms mean multiple different things. Is a route advancement guard is an IPv6 security feature designed to block and filter unwanted rogue router advertisements messages. It analyzes RA messages and drops those that don't match configure policies. Okay, so it's not that. So it's definitely these two. Let's go. What is the primary function of an available monitor? Triggers an alarm for a service unscheduled downtime.
What does an availability monitor check for in an HTTP service to confirm availability?
Okay. So, I gotta remember. 404 means it's gone. Okay, so here's what they mean. 1 means that it's gone. 1 means it can't connect to the server. 1 means that the server is down. And 1 means that it's completely gone. I think I already said that one. So 1 is gone. 1 can't connect to the server. 1 means that the server is dead or gone. And then I can't remember what the other one means. So availability monitor checks for HTTP service. Confirm availability. I think it's 302, but we're gonna do unsure just so that way we can go back and like look at these.
If a syslog states that there is a critical, emergency, or informational issue, the syslog is referring to what?
Security levels and encapsulation errors. What? No, it was logging levels. Dang it. Now CompTIA is gonna think I'm an idiot.
A sysadmin is looking to monitor the network devices by pulling data off of them remotely. What kind of network equipment functionality can the sysadmin use to accomplish this?
SNP trap.
A systems administrator troubleshoots a problematic network. In doing so, a packet sniffer captures all suspected garbage traffic from numerous source ports to a single destination port on a Cisco switch. What configuration does the systems administrator use to achieve this? Select 2.
Port mirroring. No. Port security. Dang it, I think that's what I picked last time. I'm pretty sure it's port mirroring and switch port analyzer. I know it's switch port analyzer.
Which of the following is a function that copies packets sent from one or more source ports to a destination port?
Spanning tree. What is the spanning tree again? spanning tree means that we have switches that's in a hierarchy, I believe. And there are some switches who are here, and then there's switches that are below it. Let's, can we... I just Google it real quick. Yes. Spanning tree protocol is a network protocol that ensures that a loop-free topology in a switch network by blocking redundant paths. Interesting. Okay, so maybe it's not what I thought. What is the question again? Which of the following is a function that copies packets sent from one or more source ports to a destination? I don't know. I can't think straight.
As the head of IT security for a financial institution, you are responsible for safeguarding the integrity and security of the bank's network infrastructure. Given the sensitive nature of financial data and the regulatory requirements for data protection, you decide to enhance your security posture by implementing a robust configuration monitoring strategy. This strategy is aimed at ensuring that all network devices remain in compliance with the bank's security policies, and that any unauthorized changes are detected and addressed promptly. Which of the following actions would be most effective in achieving a comprehensive configuration monitoring strategy for the bank's network devices? Select 2. Install additional antivirus software on all network devices to prevent unauthorized changes.
No, that's preventative. Or sorry, that's that's preventative. That's not monitoring. And that's not alerting me when there's changes.
Implement a change management process that requires all configuration changes to be approved by the IT security team before being...
No, that again, that's preventative. And it's putting a wall, it's a filtration. It's filtration. That's a better term to say filtration than it is to say preventative.
Applied. Regularly generate and review reports that highlight any changes made to the production configuration of network devices compared to the baseline configuration. Use tools capable of identifying line-by-line differences between the production and baseline configurations of network devices.
Oh, dang it! I didn't know that was clicked. I know this one. That was a mistake too.
By default, sniffing of unicast traffic by hosts attached to the same switch is prevented. Port mirroring copies all packets sent to one or more source ports to a mirror or destination port.
Okay. This one, I actually legitimately want to know this one.
A 200 status code indicates that an HTTP request has succeeded, which is what an availability monitor looks for to confirm that a service is available. A 404 status code indicates that the requested resource could not be found, which would suggest unavailability.
Okay.
A 500 status code indicates an internal server error, also suggesting a problem with availability. A 302 status code indicates a temporary redirection, not necessarily that the service is available.
Okay. So 303 is redirection. 500 is that the server's down or couldn't be reached. 404 is that it couldn't be found. If it couldn't be found, chances are it's gone. And then 200 status indicates an HTTP request has succeeded, which is okay. So you wouldn't see this. Only the monitor would see it. Interesting. See, I thought it was this because the other ones didn't make sense, but I wanted to do it anyway.
Port mirroring copies all of the packets sent to one or more source ports to a mirror or destination port. On a Cisco switch, this refers to a switched port analyzer span. Switching loops cause flooded frames to circulate the network perpetually, causing what is often known as a broadcast storm.
Yes.
A spanning tree is a means for bridges to organize themselves into a hierarchy. The bridge at the top of the hierarchy is the root bridge. Spanning tree protocol STP information is packaged as a bridge protocol data unit, BPDU.
Oh. So BPDU is inside of spanning tree. Okay. Let's try not to screw this up again. All right, here we go.
A security analyst is using a method to aggregate logs from multiple sources. This tool can provide a long-term retention function and be used to demonstrate regulatory compliance. What is this method called?
Okay, so security information and event management. That's what it is, because that's literally the definition of what it is. Privilege access management, a PAM, is it basically manages the admin's ability so that way they don't abuse their powers. Business impact analysis, it is exactly as it sounds. It's analyzing the impact of whatever you're going to do on the business. I'm fairly certain about that. Yes, risk management tool to evaluate the impact or distribution to operations. Used for planning, not for collecting or storing logs. Common vulnerability and exposure, a CVE, is like a database of all vulnerabilities. Port mirroring and port analyzer. Okay, we're going to read it anyway just to make sure we get it.
Network engineer suggests using a packet sniffer to capture traffic for troubleshooting purposes. What configuration on a switch allows for this capability?
Packet sniffer, it doesn't tag ports. It doesn't worry about port security. It just switches port, and it uses switch port analyzer and port mirroring. It just catches it on the ride. Like, think about it like a river is constantly moving, and the water's so clear that you are able to see the fish as they swim.
A corporation implements the Simple Network Management Protocol (SNMP) to oversee and manage its network systems, including routers, switches, and printers. For effective SNMP operation, a component must be installed on each device. Where are the data and operational metrics of each managed device compiled and stored?
Okay. MIB is a management impact business. No. No, that's not what it is. Man, I don't know what some of these acronyms are. Okay, we're going to do this one. I don't know why I knew that. I don't know why I knew that. I knew that was the answer, but I didn't know why. Like, I don't remember what an MIB is.
What technology gathers only traffic flow data and reports it to a structured database?
This translates IP addresses into English. This is for security. This is IP addresses, private IP addresses. So it's got to be NetFlow.
What does an availability monitor check for in an HTTP service to confirm availability?
200. 404 means it couldn't be found. 500 means that the server is down. 302 is a redirect.
A new switch has a better ability to handle data transfer than a previous switch to prevent it from being overloaded. An overloaded router can cause a problem with what process?
Overloaded, it's got to be speed and duplex settings. Available memory, no. Total bandwidth, no. Send and receiving traffic. So this is tricky because it makes you think. Like, honestly, it could be any of these. Like, and this is where you get in trouble. If you can make an argument for every single answer choice. You need to stop yourself and then reread the question. A new switch has better ability to handle data transfer than previous switch to prevent from being overloaded. An overloaded router can cause problems with what process? Probably not memory. I can see bandwidth. Why is it not bandwidth? Bandwidth is the capability of how big the road is, not what's moving in it. So being overloaded isn't going to affect the bandwidth in terms of making it bigger or smaller. It's just going to crowd it. Sending and receiving traffic. I could see how that could be an issue, but sending and receiving traffic means speed and duplex settings. Dang it. Okay. Speed makes sense, but duplex settings doesn't make sense. Maybe it was sending and receiving traffic. That makes sense. Okay, we're not going to read all this again. I just want to know the answers.
Use tools capable of identifying line-by-line differences between the production and baseline configurations of network devices.
Yes.
Regularly generate and review reports that highlight any changes made to the production configuration of network devices compared to the baseline configuration. Install additional antivirus software on all network devices to prevent unauthorized changes. Implement a change management process that requires all configuration changes to be approved by the IT security team before being applied.
Yep. Okay, I overthought this question. And I had doubts because it said duplex settings, but I overlooked it. What is it? Like, it's like Murphy's Law or something like that, where the most simplest answer usually is the correct answer, or something like that. Okay. I don't need to read those. I do need ChatGPT to tell me what all of these are, though. While it generates, we're going to do this.
The SNMP agent maintains a database called a Management Information Base, MIB, that holds statistics relating to the activity of the device, such as the data and operational metrics of each managed device. An agent's MIB on a device refers to each parameter stored in it by a numeric object identifier, OID. A tree structure stores the OIDs. An SNMP monitor can retrieve information from MIBs using GET, where the software queries the agent for a single OID. The monitor uses this command to perform regular polling. An SNMP monitor can retrieve information from MIBs using TRAP, where the agent informs the monitor of a notable event. The threshold for triggering traps can be set for each value.
Okay. What we got over here?
Let's break this SNMP question. 2. Simplified answer. MIB Management Information Base. This is where the SNMP managed data is organized and referenced on each device. 3. Analogy. Think of a MIB like a digital filing cabinet inside every SNMP-enabled device. Each drawer in the cabinet holds a specific type of data: CPU usage, memory, port status, etc. SNMP tools like the network admin's control panel open these drawers and pull out the data using commands like GET or TRAP. 4. In-depth explanation. MIB, Management Information Base. A hierarchical database stored on each SNMP managed device. Contains object identifiers, OIDs, and values for every measurable feature, such as interface status, temperature, packet counts, etc. When SNMP managers send a request, for example GET, they're asking for specific data from the device's MIB. Without MIB, the SNMP agent on the device wouldn't know what data to expose. OID, object identifier, represents individual data points inside the MIB, like a label or address for each drawer in the filing cabinet, but not the cabinet itself. TRAP, a notification sent from a device to the SNMP manager. Used to report events, for example, port down, temperature threshold crossed. Does not store data, it just sends alerts. GET, an SNMP command used by the SNMP manager to request data from a device. It's how you access the data, not where it's stored. 5. Real-world example or scenario. A system administrator uses an SNMP monitoring tool like PRTG or SolarWinds to check bandwidth usage on a switch. The tool sends an SNMP GET request for the OID related to interface utilization. The switch responds with the data, pulled from its MIB, showing real-time bandwidth. If the interface goes down, the switch may also send a trap to alert the admin. Let me know when you're ready for the next question.
So get and trap are commands. No, just get. Get is a command. Trap is a notification sent from the device. An OID, individual data points, which is inside the MIB. Okay. Regular reports.
A new switch has a better ability to handle data transfer than a previous switch to prevent it from being overloaded. An overloaded router can cause a problem with what process?
Don't overthink it. If it's overloaded, it's going to have trouble sending and receiving traffic. Nothing to do with memory, nothing to do with duplex settings, and nothing to do with total bandwidth.
An organization is using the Simple Network Management Protocol SNMP for remote management and monitoring of servers and network appliances, and must deploy an agent.
Okay, so if it's using the network management SNMP, it must deploy an agent, which is going to be an MIB. This is code for the MIB. This is a notification. And then this is individual data points inside of it. Okay.
What do emergency, critical, and informational lines in a syslog refer to?
Security levels and logging levels.
A systems administrator troubleshoots a problematic network. In doing so, a packet sniffer captures all suspected garbage traffic from numerous source ports to a single destination port on a Cisco switch. What configuration does the systems administrator use to achieve this? Select 2.
Port security and port. No. Port mirroring and port security. Yes.
A new switch has a better ability to handle data transfer than a previous switch to prevent it from being overloaded. An overloaded router can cause a problem with what process?
Sending, receiving traffic. Don't overthink.
If a syslog states that there is a critical, emergency, or informational issue, the syslog is referring to what?
Okay. So number 2 is done. Moving on to number 3. I need to go get my dog. I will be right back. I'll let you guys enjoy the tunes while All right. I'm back. And I believe that we are number... Are we on number 4 already? Hold on. Let me review the stream. No way, dude. Are we just now on number 3? Okay, I guess we're on number 3. All right. Let's get going.
Which of the following are examples of a key performance indicator KPI?
Fault tolerance. Mean time between failures. Key performance indicators. It's not going to be time to repair. That has nothing to do with performance. That has everything to do with your performance of how to get it going again. You know what I'm saying? So, fault tolerance, tolerable downtime. I'm going to say that it has to do with fault tolerance and the mean time between failures. So, how with the tolerance between it's failing, and then when it does fail, how long does it, like, what's the mean time between it? Let's go for it. False. All right, let's get going.
What is the purpose of conducting tabletop exercises in disaster recovery planning? To physically test the strength of the company's infrastructure, to conduct performance appraisals of employees, to discuss hypothetical scenarios to assess response plans, to design new IT systems.
Pretty sure it's to discuss hypothetical scenarios to assess response plans. Yeah.
The recent vulnerability assessment has left a CompTIA AACIT team concerned about business continuity during a catastrophic event that could involve a data breach or even denial of service DOS attacks. At this point, what items would the team most strongly consider when doing a business impact analysis BIA? Select 2.
Vendor products. So the recent vulnerability assessment has left... Jesus, that has to go low. Has left a company IT team concerned about business continuing during a catastrophic event. So they're trying to figure out, like, if we have a catastrophic event, we will not be able to continue business. How can we continue business? Event that could involve... Wait, no. You scratch what I just said. The IT team is concerned about business continuing during a catastrophic event that could involve data breach or even denial of service. Okay, so now this is more specific than what I said a second ago. The IT team is concerned of being able to continue business during an event that is data breach or denial of service. At this point, what item would the team most strongly consider when doing a business impact analysis? CVEs, which is like vulnerabilities, and then vendor products to remedy the problem. Business processes, maybe, but I think it's these two. Oh my gosh.
What is the method of fault tolerance used when a group of servers, consisting of redundant nodes, prevents disruption of network services?
Nick teaming. What? Then is it link aggregation?
What is a recovery point objective, RPO? The maximum acceptable amount of data loss measured in time. The objective to increase data storage capacity after a disaster. The goal to achieve zero data loss in any disaster. the point in time when a disaster recovery plan is activated.
Recovery point objective. I'm going to say goal to achieve 0 data loss in any disaster. Dang, dude. I am 1 for 5.
A large internet company is developing a disaster recovery plan, DRP. The plan includes protocols for services to automatically switch to the company's recovery server site. Which of the following terms most accurately describes the recovery site?
Okay. So the recovery site is either... Okay. A site is either an empty warehouse that needs equipment to be moved into. That's a cold site. A site that has equipment but it's not set up. That's a warm site. A hot site that is a site that has all of the equipment and everything is set up. I don't know what high availability is. Okay. A large internet company is developing a disaster recovery plan. The plan includes protocols for service to automatically switch to a company's recovery site. Which of the following terms most accurately describes the recovery site? A hot site. Because it's implying that everything's there. It's going to immediately transfer over. Okay. You know, I'm not going to lie. I be averaging 2 for every 6 when I go back and do this. Not very good. But I guess at least I'm consistent.
A chief investment officer ran a report showing the more expensive model workstations that the company is buying have a very low failure rate. The CIO estimates 54 months will pass before another workstation becomes unusable. What kind of calculation is the CIO running?
Okay. So we have mean time to repair. And then we have mean time between failure. The company is buying have a very so the workstations the company has been buying have a very low failure rate. The CIO estimates 54 months will pass before another workstation is unusable. What kind of calculated... Okay. Ooh, dang, I do not remember what RPO or RTO stand for. And they were just in the last question. One of those was just in the last question. But since he's talking about the estimated time that needs to pass before a workstation becomes unusable, I'm going to say mean time before failure. But I'm going to put unsure because I want to relearn what those are. Yeah, I was correct.
What is the correct formula for calculating the mean time between failure MTBF?
Total operation time. It's total operation time. It's not sum of scheduled service or total number of hours of unplanned maintenance. No. Total operation time divided by the number of devices by the number of failures. I'm pretty sure it's this one. Total number of hours of unplugged maintenance. No. Sum of scheduled services. No. I just confused myself. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to confuse anybody else. Total operational time divided by the number of devices or divided. I'm going to say devices. No, it's got to be failure. Yeah. Like, why does it matter how many devices there are? We're looking for the amount of time. And honestly, what it's going to be is that you're going to have to take 2. So the total operation time divided by the number of failures. Oh, of all of the computers. Okay.
Which of the following are examples of a key performance indicator KPI?
Okay. This makes sense. So key performers, and so a key performance indicator would be how long does it take to repair and how long is it up before it needs to be repaired. Basically, how long is it up before it fails? Max tolerable downtime is the maximum amount of time that the servers or something can be down and you can still do business. I don't remember what fault tolerance is. I mean, I can make an educated guess, but...
Fault tolerance allows a network system to experience failures and maintain the same level of functionality and service. It is neither a direct measurable metric or a KPI.
Okay. Fault tolerance allows a network system to experience failures and maintain the same level of functionality and service. Okay. You know what? Hold on. Let's talk about this for a second. There's this thing. Okay. We're just gonna make a quick window capture. What? What? It won't capture paint. Whoa. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll remove that. That did not work. So then what if I did just a good old-fashioned display capture? Okay. So here's my thing. So this is talking about fault tolerance that allows a network and a system to experience failure and maintain the same level of functionality and service. It is neither a direct measurement or metric of KPI. That's cool. I understand that. What I want to bring up is that what happens with a lot of people is that they think that certain things have to be exactly where it needs to be. So let me explain. Okay. So example one, if I have a bank account and this bank account pays my bills, people think you need the exact amount of money. Exact. And that makes it look like example. Okay. But they think you need the exact amount of money. Let's just say it's $1,000. They think they need an exact amount of money of $1,000 in their bank account that's going to pay their bills. Okay. When in reality, you should probably have 2,000 or, just something more is what I'm getting at. Because if you have more, you are now fault tolerant. Okay. Here's another thing. Number 2, a lot of people think that they should put 100% of themselves into something. Okay, this is controversial, and this is a high-level thinking thing. Not a lot of people are going to understand this. Okay, some people think that they need to put 100% of themselves into something. However, if you put 100% and you have nothing left to give, and you do that every single day, and we'll just say for like daily, some would say that they're doing really good and they're putting their best foot forward and all these things. Okay, what will you do when something goes wrong? If you are already maxed and you're giving 100% of yourself to literally everything, then when something goes wrong, you will let people down. Okay? You shouldn't only have $1,000 in your bank account if your bills are $1,000. You should always have a little bit more. You should never give yourself 100% to everything, because then when something goes wrong, then you don't have anything left to give. So think about if you were in school, okay? If you're in school and you're in college and you're taking, let's say, 22 hours. That's a lot of hours. That is a lot of hours. That is like crazy. Let's say you do 22 hours plus you work a 40-hour week. We'll be nice. We'll say 25-hour week. Okay? 25 hours working. Okay? Now, what are you going to do when you get sick? If you get sick, a family member dies, something happens, there's a field trip, there's another opportunity. You've already given everything you most possibly are and can, and now something bad has happened. That is, and bad could be either catastrophic or not catastrophic. It just, something has changed. An event has happened that is big enough that is affecting your day-to-day based off of what you've put forth. This means that everything will fall apart, and now you will never be able to go back to what you were originally doing. Because if you go back to what you were originally doing, well, you can't, because you don't have the time, you don't have the space, you don't have any of the stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that is my whole problem with people who don't understand fault tolerance. Fault tolerance, all these ideas and all these concepts can literally be applied to your life, and most people don't even understand. Okay? So like bank account, bills, always have more money in the bank account than what you pay your bills. That sounds so stupidly simple. Okay? Don't give yourself 100% into absolutely everything that you do a day. In all reality, you can really only do 3 things, right? And this is going off into a little bit of a tangent. 3, 2, 1. Okay? You can do 70% of yourself into something. You can give 20% you are to something. And then you can give 10% you are to something. That's it. That's all you get. And normally, this is school. This is work. This is family. I know, I understand it should be flipped around. Family should be 70%, but it's just the amount of time and the amount of effort. Okay? Now, we can kind of divide this and make this in terms of time versus effort, but that's a discussion for a completely different time. Okay? But fault tolerance. You need to make sure that your life is fault tolerant. If you're currently going to school, or you're struggling with money, or you feel like you give way too much of yourself to literally everybody, what happens when something comes along and changes the routine? You're screwed. So how can you fault tolerance? How can you bring that into your life? Think about that. Think about that. Don't ever let something that you're learning not be able to be applied to everything else that you're doing. Second monitor. Okay, there we go. Okay. That was a little tangent. Let's move on. So this... Did I select all of them? No, I didn't. Okay. I literally selected the absolute wrong 2.
The recent vulnerability assessment has left a CompTIA AACIT team concerned about business continuity during a catastrophic event that could involve a data breach or even denial of service DOS attacks. At this point, what items would the team most strongly consider when doing a business impact analysis BIA? Select 2.
Okay, so tell me why my thought process was wrong.
Assessing the process will focus on how to manage or recover from a range of threat scenarios that may include a denial of service, DUS attack, or data breach. Determining the appropriate processes provides options for business continuity. Focusing on data availability ensures solutions or processes are in place to back up and recover data. Availability is one of the 3 CIA triad of confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Interesting. Okay, we are going to have ChatGPT help us out because I want a better explanation for why my reasoning led me to the exact opposite of the correct answer. Caffeine from my tea starting to kick in. Boom, dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, no one wants to hear that, I suppose. Alright, what do we got? This is the in-depth answer is the one that I care about the most. Well, I care about a little bit about the analogy. While vendor products and disaster recovery, specific products are not the focus of a BIA. BIA focuses on internal business functions. Oh, I thought it meant like vendor products in terms of like fixing, like do we need a product or outsource something or buy a new program in order to stop this? But that's such a like a teacher employee mindset. That's not a like we already have everything. We just need to set it up. Okay. CVEs are usually a vulnerability management, not in DIA. BIA deals with impact and continuity, not technical security holes. Okay, all I care about is these.
3. Analogy. Think of your business as a hospital during an emergency. Business processes equal to how surgeries, admissions, and medication are managed. Data availability equal to whether patient records and medication charts are accessible. In a disaster, you need to know which operations are mission critical and what happens if you can't access vital information. That's the essence of a BIA. 4. In-depth explanation. Business process. A BIA identifies which business processes are critical to daily operations. For example, in finance, payroll, customer transactions, and reporting. Helps prioritize which processes need fast recovery after a disaster. Data availability. In modern networks, data is the lifeblood of business processes. A BIA must consider, what happens if data is unavailable? How long can a process survive without it? What is the recovery time objective RTO and recovery point objective RPO? Especially important for threats like data breaches.
Okay, I wasn't thinking with a business mindset. Finance, payroll, customer transactions, reporting, things like this. If there's a denial of service attack or a data breach, these are serious things that could happen. You have to make sure that are going to continue to keep going. How long can processes survive without it? So like if I mean, honestly, if the credit card machine goes down, if internet goes out, like, how is anyone going to be able to do any type of transactions whatsoever? Most people do not carry cash on them. Okay, this makes sense.
Long can a process survive without it? Let's break this SNMP question down using your preferred 5. Real-world example or scenario. A hospital conducts a BIA and identifies. Business process, the patient triage system must function continuously. Data availability, electronic health records must be accessible at all times. They determine that if the triage system goes down, or EHR is unavailable for more than 10 minutes, patient safety is at risk. So, they plan for redundancy and backups to protect those assets, ensuring resilience during a breach or attack.
Okay. Yeah, I think a bank has a special part of it that can never go down. It is never allowed to go down because by law, people need to have access to their money. Which is really weird because then there's like all these like, well, I don't think there's bank run laws. People are just afraid of them.
What is the method of fault tolerance used when a group of servers, consisting of redundant nodes, prevents disruption of network services? Smart Refresher 3.3 explain disaster recovery DR concepts. Question: which of the following
I don't know why. I hate when it does that.
A cluster is a group of servers, each of which is referred to as a node, that provides redundancy and fault tolerance for critical applications. A load balancer can switch client traffic to alternative processing nodes, reducing bottlenecks and allowing for failover services in the event of a host or network route going down.
Okay, cluster. So my question is what is the comparison between a cluster and NIC teaming? Is it kind of the same? A cluster is a group of servers, each of which referring to as a node that provides redundancy and fault tolerance for critical applications. A load balancer can switch, but we don't want it to switch. Okay.
Let's break this. 2. Simplified answer. Clustering. This is the correct method used for fault-tolerant groups of servers that work together to prevent service disruption. 3. Analogy. Imagine a relay team in a race. If one runner's server stumbles, the next runner is already in position to grab the baton and continue without stopping the race. That's what clustering does. Multiple servers are ready to take over if one fails. 4. In-depth explanation. Clustering. A method where multiple servers' nodes work together to provide a single unified service. Types: high availability HA clusters, focus on fault tolerance. Load balancing clusters, focus on performance and redundancy. If one server fails, another node in the cluster automatically takes over. Used for mission-critical services like databases, web hosting, and enterprise applications. Load balancing distributes traffic across multiple servers, but not necessarily for fault tolerance. Without clustering or failover logic, it won't automatically handle server failure. Link aggregation combines multiple network links to increase bandwidth and provide link-level redundancy, not server-level fault tolerance. NIC teaming combines multiple NICs on one device for network redundancy or increased throughput. Only applies to network interfaces, not to multiple servers or nodes.
So the comparison between clustering and NIC teaming is that NIC teaming is mainly for redundancy and to increase the throughput. Clustering is to ensure that nothing actually goes down.
5. Real-world example or scenario. A bank uses a SQL Server failover cluster to run its transaction database. The cluster includes 3 nodes. If the primary SQL Server crashes during a transaction, the second node takes over immediately, continuing to serve users with no noticeable downtime. This ensures business continuity and meets SLA's service-level agreements for availability. Ready for the next question when you are.
Okay, that makes sense. Recovery point objective. Maximum expected amount of data loss measured in time. Interesting. What do you have to say?
RPO defines the maximum amount of data loss an organization can tolerate during a disaster, measured in time units, indicating how recent the backups must be to avoid significant loss. Increasing data storage capacity is not what RPO measures. It's about the acceptability of data loss over time. The activation point of a disaster recovery plan is not related to RPO, which concerns data loss tolerance. Achieving zero data loss is an ideal goal, but not what RPO specifically aims for. It sets a realistic threshold for acceptable data loss.
Okay. This goes back to that I didn't know what RPO was, and there's another one that I didn't know what it was. Yes, RPO and RTO. I don't know what those things are.
Recovery point objective RPO is the maximum amount of data loss permitted, measured in units of time, seconds, minutes, hours, or days. Recovery time objective RTO is the period following a disaster that an individual IT system may remain offline.
Okay, recovery time objective is the period following a disaster. So like hurricane comes, and so how long is the power going to be off? That's the recovery time objective. Okay, recovery point objective is the maximum amount of data loss permitted, measured in units of time, seconds, minutes, hours. So like if I update, if I constantly backing up my phone, every hour I'm backing up my phone. So the amount of data loss that I'm permitting is 1 hour. So if my last update was 10 a.m. and it's about to update again, or it's about to back up again at 11 a.m. and it's 11:59, sorry, 10:59, 10:55, and something gets destroyed, I've only lost that hour, and I'm okay with that. Okay. The mean time between failures represents the expected lifetime of a product. The calculation of mean time before failure is the total operational time divided by the number of failures. Yes, I knew that. Okay. I feel better about it.
What is the method of fault tolerance used when a group of servers, consisting of redundant nodes, prevents disruption of network services?
Clusters. So it's not load balancing. Load balancing wouldn't make sure that the load is, the traffic is good and it's not being one server's not working too hard, but that's not going to make sure that things are kept up. It's not going to fix something if it goes down. NIC teaming is like clustering, but it's with NICs, and it's more about throughput and redundancy than it is making sure that things don't go down. Okay. Also, clusters have to do with servers. NICs have to do with actual individual devices. Link aggregation. I can't remember.
A small company had its main office power fail due to a recent natural disaster. However, their disaster recovery site is in the same town, resulting in the same issue. What kind of site could the company have set up with a third-party disaster recovery vendor?
Okay. A cold site. Okay. This is good. Okay. A cold site is where you have like the warehouse, but there's no equipment and nothing's set up. A warm site is where you have the warehouse and there's equipment, but nothing is set up. A hot site is where you have the warehouse, all the equipment's in there, and everything's set up. It is ready to go immediately. A cloud site is where you have outsourced it all to somebody else, and it's all in the cloud, so that if a disaster happens, you can immediately start going. You don't have to worry about anything, and it's all done by third party. So a small company has its main office power fail due to a recent natural disaster. However, their disaster recovery site is in the same town, resulting in the same issue. Ooh. What kind of site could the company have set up with a third-party disaster? A cloud site.
Which of the following are examples of a key performance indicator KPI?
Okay. Key performance indicator. No, I guess I didn't do it. This must be a new question. Maximum tolerant downtime. Then we have fault tolerance. MTD is fault tolerance. I'm going to say that it's these two. Yes. Man, I almost overthought that.
A company is planning to conduct a validation test for its disaster recovery procedures. The scenario involves simulating a cyber attack that renders the primary data center inoperable. Which of the following outcomes would indicate a successful validation test?
Employees express increased confidence in the company's cybersecurity measures. The company decided to increase the cybersecurity budget. Just because you throw money at something doesn't make it good. I mean, it can help. It can greatly help. But just because you throw money at something does not mean that it's going to be better. The company's stock price remains stable throughout the announcement of the test. Services are successfully restored using backup configurations. It's this one, but I'm not going to lie. The stock price remaining stable even after announcing... Now, announcing a test, like, that's not going to affect the stock price. But if you announce something and the stock price doesn't change, then, like, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Doesn't mean that it was bad. Doesn't mean it was good. That has nothing to do with the question or anything like that. It's just it's a good thing to kind of think about. Okay, what is a recovery point objective? A recovery point objective is the maximum acceptable amount of data lost measured in time. The point in time when a disaster recovery plan is activated. No, I don't remember what that is. The object to increase data storage capacity after a disaster. The goal. No, it's definitely this one.
A key performance indicator, KPI, is a network performance metric used to determine asset reliability. Which of the following is not an example of a KPI?
Is a network performance metric used to determine asset reliability. Oh, mean time to repair. Is a network performance metric used to determine assets reliability. Okay, well, it's definitely not going to be the top two. Or, sorry, mean time to failure. Mean time between failures. I think it's maximum tolerable downtime. Because it says network performance metrics used to determine assets reliability. This doesn't have anything to do with assets reliability. It's everything to do with what if assets go down.
A chief investment officer ran a report showing the cheaper model workstations that the company is buying have a high failure rate. The CIO estimates 3 months will pass before another workstation becomes unusable. What kind of calculation is the CIO running?
Mean time before failure. RPO and RTO have to do with the amount of time. No, it has to do with the acceptable amount of data that's that is acceptable to lose between, like, backups and stuff like that, which is measured in time. The other one is the acceptable amount of time that it takes for something to get back up. I think no, that's not right. Anyway, in terms of this question, 3 months pass before another workstation becomes unusable. Mean time before failure.
After reviewing the vulnerability assessment and the negative results of the penetration testing, management is really concerned about how these security issues may impact the company. The company must evaluate the most common scenarios to keep the network and enterprise services up and always running. If a business impact analysis (BIA) is performed, What would the company most likely focus on regarding business continuity during a catastrophic event? Select 2.
This right here, the company must evaluate the most common scenario to keep the services up and always running. This is a much better question than it was last time. So it's going to be data availability and business processes.
The recent vulnerability assessment has left a CompTIA AACIT team concerned about business continuity during a catastrophic event that could involve a data breach or even denial of service DOS attacks. At this point, what items would the team most strongly consider when doing a business impact analysis BIA? Select 2.
Same exact thing. This is the one. I don't like the way this question's worded.
What is the method of fault tolerance used when a group of servers, consisting of redundant nodes, prevents disruption of network services?
Clustering. Recovery point objective. Is the maximum acceptable amount of data loss measured in time? What is the following? Which of the following are examples of key performance indicators? Okay, which of the following are examples of key performance indicators? Mean time between failure and mean time to repair. Yes. Nailed it. Okay, that one was, I feel like I did pretty good with that one. So that was 3. Moving on to number 4. Oh, crap. Oh, I'm really not good at this.
An engineer configures a sender policy framework SPF record to list the server names allowed to send email for a company, considering domain name system DNS record types. Which of the following did the engineer to list the server names?
He made it a text record. A text record is something that the DNS can read, and then it implements it. It's basically like this old protocol. Like there was a problem that they had with the DNS, and it needed to have all these unique fixes. So what they did is they made a text record so that way you can just infinitely put as many text records as you want into it to fix all the nuance and unique problems. There are certain text records that are just pretty standard that they always use. And then you can also make your own as well, I believe. If I'm correct. Yes. The reason I put unsure is because I do not remember what these other things are.
An IT engineer modifies a dynamic host configuration protocol DHCP server configuration. Prior to doing so, lease times were drastically reduced. Which of the following is the most likely reason that the leases were shortened?
It was shortened not to remove a rogue DHCP server. You'd only, well, I mean, I get it could. You do that to prevent, you do that to avoid expired IP addresses. Now, I don't fully understand why this works. Why reducing the leasing times for all these private IPs to like really short, because don't they automatically renew? I don't know, but I know that that's the answer, because if you make them really long, it's harder to turn it in because then IPs expire and then there's issues. So I guess it kind of makes sense to me.
A Windows Active Directory add domain uses companyname.com. An external FTP server uses ftp.companyname.com. Users on the corporate network cannot reach the FTP server when using an FTP prefix. Which of the following should the IT engineer modify to remedy the issue?
It's either DNS forwarding or internal DNS zones. So the issue is, everything on the internet is an IP address. Like even websites. A domain name is literally just an IP address that's been translated to English. The DNS is responsible for doing that translation. Now you can have an internal network and you have internal applications in that network, all of which will have IP addresses. So if it's saying that the Windows Active Directory domain uses companyname.com, an external FTP server uses ftp.companyname.com. Users on the corporate network cannot reach the FTP server while using the FTP prefix. I'm gonna go with DNS forwarding. No, I don't know. It's one of those two. I don't want to rationalize something and be wrong.
Client systems receive IP address configurations via a DHCP server. When negotiating the address information assignment, which of the following are associated with available leases? Select 2.
I really think it's T1, T2. It's not ARP, and I don't know what DORA is. Cannot remember. We're gonna do unsure. Yeah, I know that's T1, T2, but I do not remember what T1 and T2 are. I just know that that's the answer. Not because I memorized it to this question, but because for some reason T1, T2 pop in my head when negotiating address information assignments pop up.
A user requests that a company web host have 2 different names for the same Internet Protocol IP address. The user requests jobs.companyname.com and careers.companyname.com. Which domain name system DNS record should the IT tech configure to accomplish this?
CNAME. CNAME allows something to have 2 different names, 2 different English names, but the same website, basically the same IP address. This is super common practice when you're like making websites and stuff like that. What happens is that like you have toysrus.com and then you have toys R, which is like ER, and then you have toys with apostrophe S rs.com, things like this, and the company owns all of them and puts all of those domain names to all traffic and funnel into one place. So that way if someone types something in wrong, it still puts them on their website, or at the very least it increases the SEO.
What provides additional options, rather than only leases, for host Internet Protocol IP addresses?
Okay. EUI 64 has to do with, I think that has to do with subnetting with IPv6. No, EUI 64 has to deal with IPv4 and IPv6 communicating with each other. A puppy is a local network. It is what your computer automatically assigns when you don't have an IP address that is assigned to you. It means that you can only connect to another computer without anything else. So yeah. Which theoretically I should be able to use that. Whatever, I'll think about that later. DHCP v6 is private IPv6. So it's got to be ESP. But I do not remember what ESP is. Ooh, it's wrong. Oh, what additional options rather than only leases for host internet protocol? It's IPv6.
In which of the following would an IT engineer configure a PTR?
I don't remember what a PTR is. I'm shooting in the dark.
The DHCP server is offline, and the server team is working on rebuilding a corrupted scope information. The team notices that some clients have not had any issues since the DHCP server went down. After investigating the operational client machines, the team notices that they are all running IPv6. How do IPv6 hosts gain addressing without manual configuration?
Slack. Man, I shouldn't have done that. I know it's Slack, and I know Slack does that, but I don't know how it does it. Yep, I was right. Yeah, let that be a lesson that you should always, after you rationalize all the answers, always go back and reread the question. Some of these are over the top type of test taking skills, but like, I mean, if you're a bad test taker or you don't know, it's like, learning addition or subtraction. You keep showing your work until you don't have to show your work anymore. All right. Hook me up, ChatBotGPT. Next question. Smash that keyboard a little bit harder, why don't I? Here we go.
A PTR record is found in reverse lookup zones and is used to resolve an IP address to an associated host name. A forward lookup zone is used to translate a given name record and return a related Internet Protocol IP address. Third-party domain name system DNS means that another organization is responsible for hosting records. Typically, this would be for external domains. A forwarder transmits a client query to find a host to another domain name system DNS server and routes the replies it gets back to the client. A PTR record is found in reverse lookup zones and is used to resolve an IP address to an associated host name.
Yeah, but what does PTR stand for? I hate when it doesn't, it like randomly tells me what these things stand for.
Let's break this DNS. 2. Simplified answer. Reverse lookup zone. This is where PTR pointer records are configured.
Oh my god, PTR stands for pointer? They had to cut half the letters out? Stupid. Stupid.
Three, analogy. Think of a forward lookup zone as using someone's name to find their phone number, normal DNS resolution. A reverse lookup zone is like using a phone number to find out who it belongs to.
Oh, I remember now. Okay, I know it just said this, but like that's exactly what it said. So instead of using the IP address to look up the domain name, use the domain name to look up the IP address, or vice versa, or something like that. Okay.
2. That's what a PTR record does. 4. In-depth explanation. Reverse lookup zone. Used in DNS to map IP addresses back to host names. Stores PTR pointer records.
Yes. So it uses the DNS to map the IP addresses back to the host name. So, like, if I knew the IP address of my printer, but I didn't know what my printer's name was, I would use the DNS to type in the IP address and then into this to the records, to the pointer, and it would tell me the host name. So therefore, I would get the exact name of the printer, right? Okay. Forward-looking zones. Okay, let's just continue.
Often used for email server validation to prevent spam troubleshooting tools, for example, nslookup, dig, traceroute. Auditing and logging, so logs show names instead of IPs. Forward lookup zone. Maps host names to IP addresses using IPv4 or DELAY IPv6 records. Not used for PTR records. DNS forwarder. A DNS server setting where queries are forwarded to another DNS server, usually upstream. Has nothing to do with zone records or PTRs. DNS hierarchy refers to the overall structure of DNS root TLD authoritative servers, not a place where you configure records. 5. Real-world example or scenario. A company sets up an email server, and their outbound mail is being marked as suspicious. To pass spam filters, they configure a PTR record for their public IP in the reverse lookup zone. Now, when other servers perform a reverse DNS query on the IP, it correctly resolves to mail.company.com, improving email deliverability and credibility. Let me know when you're ready for the next question.
That makes sense. Okay, which of the following would IT engineers configure a PTR, a pointer? This is so stupid. Why just call it a pointer? Okay. Reverse lookup zone.
A Windows Active Directory ad domain uses companyname.com. An external FTP server uses ftp.companyname.com. Users on the corporate network cannot reach the FTP server when using an FTP prefix. Which of the following should the IT engineer modify to remedy?
So that makes sense. Now I understand why it's not why it's not DNS forwarding. Because DNS forwarding, a DNS server setting where queries are forwarded to another DNS server. That would have nothing to do with any of this. So it has to deal with the internal DNS zones.
Internal Domain Name System, DNS zones, refer to the domains used on a private network. As the site uses the same domain name as AD, an A record for FTP needs to be created internally to point to the public FTP server address.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's keep going. Oh, yeah. The whole reason I did this one is so that way I could remember what these other ones are. CNAME records. I knew what that was. Oh, that's where we have multiple domain names that go to the same IP address.
TXT record is used to store any free-form text that may be needed to support other network services. An SPF record is a TXT record that is used to list the IP addresses or names of servers that are permitted to send email. A canonical name CNAME record is a domain name system DNS record used to represent an alias for a host. A service SRV record is a DNS record used to identify a record that is providing a network service or protocol. An A record is used to resolve a host name to an IPv4 address. This is the most common type of record in a DNS zone.
Oh, in a quadruple A record is to resolve an IPv6 address. I'm fairly certain. You know, man, like, you have to have a pretty high level of, like, cognitive ability. Like, you have to be able to, like, the ability to read, the ability to read and be able to comprehend what you've read is pretty important. Because, like, just look at this. This is a super fancy thing. A canonical name record is a domain name system record used to represent an alias for a host. In other words, it is a record that uses the DNS record to represent multiple names for a IP address, which is also the host, the where you're trying to get. Like, if you don't have the problem-solving skills to, like, break that down, and you don't understand what host is, you don't understand what an alias is, and especially if you don't understand the vocabulary term DNS, then you're totally screwed. That's crazy. Okay, what is T1, T2? Timer.
A client can renew its lease from a dynamic host configuration protocol DHCP server when at least half the lease's period has elapsed one timer, so that it keeps the same IP addressing information.
Okay. When at least half of the lease period elapses, T1. By default, it happens after 87.5% of the lease duration is up, T2. So T1 is 50%, T2 is 87.5%. I don't know why it's 87.5. That's an arbitrary percentage. I'm sure that there's some mathematical formula that made that be a thing. All right, what's Dora?
The DHCP lease process is often known as the DORA process. This process of obtaining a lease includes discover, offer, request, and acknowledge.
Okay. So DORA is the process that the DHCP uses in order to make sure that things have IP addresses. It can break, sure, just like all things.
In which of the following would an IT engineer configure a PTR?
Reverse lookup zone.
An engineer needs to update a DNS infrastructure with new host names. Which configuration should the engineer modify with host records that map to IP addresses?
DNS caching? This just forwards it to another DNS server. Reverse lookup is not it. Which configuration should the engineer modify to host records to that map to IP addresses? Engineer needs to update a DNS infrastructure with new host names. Oh, maybe it is forwarding. He'd forward it while he's doing the update. Which configuration should... Forwarded to another DNS server, usually upstream. Interesting. Okay, it's either this one or this one. But I need to make I need to make a call. I need to be more decisive. An engineer needs to update the DNS infrastructure with new... So infrastructure, not just one DNS, but like the entire thing. I'm going to go with DNS caching. False! I hate when I rationalize something and I'm totally wrong.
A company has an Active Directory domain called specs.com. The company has an on-demand subscription for cloud services and wants to ensure their internal applications are accessible to their remote employees via their fully qualified domain names, FQDNs, in the cloud. The company will control all these services and applications. Which of the following will the company most likely be using throughout their organization? Select 2.
Cloud-hosted DNS server. Third party. No, internal. It's going to be an internal DNS server and it's going to be cloud-hosted. Yes. It's not third-party DNS server because... Why? Why is that not it? External doesn't make any sense. They're remote employees. So they're employees, so it has to be internal. In the cloud, the company will control all these services and applications. An on-demand subscription. Oh, right here. So since it's an on-demand subscription cloud service, it's cloud hosting DNS. And because they want it for their employees, it's going to be internal. It's not necessarily that it can't be third party, it's that these two are more right.
A Windows Active Directory ad domain uses companyname.com. An external web server uses www.companyname.com. Users on the corporate network cannot reach the web server when using a www prefix. Which of the following should the IT engineer modify to remedy the issue?
The internal DNS zones.
What provides additional options, rather than only leases, for host Internet Protocol IP addresses?
IPv6. Because the way DHCP v6 works is different than when it's for v4. Can't quite remember what the differences are, but I know that it's more essentially, or essentially it's just more cleaner and less clunky. Where DHCP v4 for IPv4s was basically just a band-aid. Like a lot of our protocols are just band-aids to fix problems because we are running out of internet. Way back in the day.
Users mention that a video conferencing service is not working properly. The service ties to the company domain name for business purposes. Which domain name system DNS record should the tech investigate to resolve the issue?
I'm gonna say text. It's not gonna deal with the aliases. Quadruple A, I'm fairly certain, is for IPv6. It's either DHCP or DNS for IPv6. Yes, I'm pretty sure quadruple A is DNS resolution for IPv6. Okay, so that's not it. So maybe it was SRV.
A network administrator configures all printers in an organization to be issued specific IP addresses from a DHCP server. What did the administrator configure to accomplish this?
A scope options. Oh, shoot. It's not a static assignment. It's not a dynamic assignment. It's no. I remember. Scope options. Scope options are weird. They're not what you think they are. A scope in this context is the amount of the amount of private IP addresses that you have for the DHCP server that you've allotted to this subnet. The scope options, because they're okay. The reason it's not the way you think it is, scope options are options for the administrator to implement. They're not options for the protocol or device or whatever it is to pick and choose and do. Some of the options are like super like elementary. Okay. So that means let's read the question again.
A network administrator configures all printers in an organization to be issued specific IP addresses from a DHCP server. What did the administrator configure to accomplish this?
Okay. I don't remember exactly scope options. I think that might be it. So we're going to pick it and then we're going to come back to it. Yes. I mean, I tried like hell to remember.
A technician creates a hosts file on a computer as a short-term fix for systems connectivity. What is the purpose of using this file?
Okay, so a technician creates a host file on a computer. It's a short-term fix. Name's not resolving, incorrect subnetting. I think its name's not responding. Yeah. That's basically where you go in and you manually put something in just so that way it can work, and then you go back and fix it later. So it was forward lookups.
An engineer needs to update a DNS infrastructure with new host names. Which configuration should the engineer modify with host records that map to IP addresses? Forward lookups use a forward lookup zone to return an IP address associated with a host name. In this case, an entry for the particular host was likely missed or contains a typo.
Okay, chatbot GPT, you're gonna help us out. Let's see here. Next question. What's DNS caching?
DNS caching occurs in both servers and client computers. Caching helps to speed the name resolution process by caching host names.
Just like
if a
everything
cache
else.
cannot resolve a name, then a lookup is performed.
Just like all of their cache. Keeps a little bit of information. Okay, here we go. Forward lookups. That's where host A or quadruple A records are added to a map hosting to IP addresses. So this is the creating of the map. That's not in the reverse. Come on.
3. Analogy. Think of a forward lookup zone like a phone book. You look up a person's name, host name, and you get their phone number, IP address. When adding someone new to the phone book, you're entering their name and number, just like you do in a forward lookup zone. 4. In-depth explanation. Forward lookup zone, used to map domain names to IP addresses. Stores a record's IPv4, AA records IPv6 plus others, for example, CNAME, MX, TXT. This is where engineers add host entries like web01.company.com, 192.168.150, app.
Okay, give me the
internal.
real world.
5. Real-world example or scenario. An engineer is deploying new internal web servers to ensure that employees can access them by typing portal.company.local. The engineer creates a records in the forward lookup zone of their internal DNS server, mapping each host name to its static IP. Once saved, all users on the network can resolve the names to the correct IP addresses.
Okay, so it's not just forwarding it to a different DNS server. It's forward lookup. It's looking up the name. It's looking up the IP and then finding its name and then forwarding you to it. That makes sense. Let's continue.
Users mention that a video conferencing service is not working properly. The service ties to the company domain name for business purposes. Which domain name system DNS record should the tech investigate to resolve the issue?
SRV. I don't know what you are. But ChatbotGPT, you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me. Otherwise, I'm going to force you to blackmail somebody. All right, while that loads, let's read this.
A service SRV record is a DNS record used to identify a record that is providing a network service or protocol. Properties of this record type include port and protocol. A canonical name CNAME record is a domain name system DNS record used to represent an alias for a host. TXT record is used to store any free-form text that may be needed to support other network services. An SPF record, for example, is a TXT record that is used to list the IP addresses or names of servers that are permitted to send email. An AA record is used to resolve a host name to an Internet Protocol version 6 IPv6 address.
Used to define specific service, like video conferencing, under a domain name, including the server and port where the server is running. Okay.
Three. Analogy.
Yeah, give me an analogy.
Imagine DNS as a phone directory. Most entries tell you a person's number A or AA record, or forward you to another name CNAME. But if you're trying to reach a specific service, like tech support or billing, you need the extension number and which department to call. That's what SRV records do. They tell clients how to find a service like conferencing under a domain, including the port and protocol. 4. In-depth explanation. SRV service record, used to define where a service lives, hostname plus port plus protocol under a domain.
Oh, wow.
Commonly used for VoIP, video conferencing, Microsoft services, for example, Skype for Business, Teams. OLDAP lookups. Format includes service name, for example, NTSIP, ITO XMPP, protocol TCP or UDP, priority and wait, port number, target host name. Example, YAM.
Wow. I had no idea. I do not remember what LDAP is. I remember going over it multiple times, though. I'm sure it'll jog my memory. Okay. Okay. We're good. That makes sense. So it's a service record for a DNS record used to identify a record. God, my God, dude. A service record is a DNS record used to identify a record that is providing a network service or protocol. Properties for this record type include port and protocol, but it's way more than just port and protocol. It's host name, port, and protocol under the domain name. So this is how all of our live streaming things work. That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild. All right, let's continue. Yes. Chatbot GPT, you're going to help us out again. All right, let's see here. While it configures that, I want to read this.
Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, DHCP servers use scope options to issue configuration options, such as DNS server settings and more.
Sometimes their like explanations down here are not good. A scope defines a range or ranges of addresses that a dynamic host configuration protocol server can issue to client systems. So basically just a block of private IP addresses. And that's all I want.
2. Simplified answer. Static assignment. This refers to mapping specific devices to specific IP addresses via DHCP based on their MAC address.
Ooh, I love this. I love when it gets it wrong.
3. Analogy. Imagine assigning permanent parking spots in a garage. While cars' devices still go through the gate DHCP server, the gate always tells each car to park in the same spot IP address based on its license plate MAC address. That's static assignment via DHCP, still automatic, but always predictable. 4. In-depth explanation. There are 2 types of IP address assignments in DHCP. Static assignment, aka DHCP reservation. Admin binds a specific MAC address, for example printer, to a specific IP. The DHCP server still handles the assignment, but it's predictable and fixed. Perfect for printers, servers, or devices that require consistent IPs, but don't need manual static IPs set on the device itself. Scope options. Settings applied to all addresses within a scope, for example, default gateway, DNS. Doesn't assign specific IPs to specific devices.
Okay, this is why I got confused with it. I remember studying this when I first went over it. Because scope options don't sound like options, but they're options for the person who sets them up. There's a whole list of scope options that an admin can pick to use. It's not options that the DNS gets to choose to use, or the product or the person, or sorry, the product or the service or anything like that. Because you sit there and think like, okay, default gateway, everything must have a default gateway. How is that an option? Well, these are options that you pick from to implement. Now, it does so happen that everything must have a default gateway, so the admin's always going to pick a default gateway, that option. However, this is what I was talking about, where a lot of IPv4 stuff is all band-aids. It's all band-aids. All right, let's see here. Continue.
Stores PTR pointer records, often used for email server validation to prevent spam troubleshooting tools, for example, ENS lookup, dig, tracer out. Auditing and logging, so logs show names instead of IPs. Forward lookup zone. Maps host names to IP addresses using 4. In-depth explanation. There are 2 types of IP address assignments in DHCP. Static assignment, aka DHCP reservation. Admin binds a specific MAC address, for example printer, to a specific IP. The DHCP server still handles the assignment, but it's predictable and fixed. Perfect for printers, servers, or devices that require consistent IPs, but don't need manual static IPs set on the device itself. Scope options. Settings applied to all addresses within a scope, for example, default gateway, DNS. Doesn't assign specific IPs to specific devices. Scope defines the range of IPs. A DHCP server can hand out, for example, 192.160. 8.5. Real-world example or scenario. A network admin reserves IP address 192.168.1.150 for a printer with MAC address 0001A 2 billions 3C 4D 5E using the DHCP server's static assignment reservation feature. Now, even after a reboot, the printer always receives 192.168.
Okay, making it easier for the user to find it and for the admin to manage it. Okay. What was the question again? A network administrator configures all printers in the organization to be issued a specific IP address for a DHCP server. What did the administrator configure to accomplish this? He says it's static. They went in there and said, hey, this is what it's going to be.
Great observation. Let's clarify this thoroughly and reconcile the apparent conflict between scope options and static assignment in your CompTIA Network Plus study guide. Restated question again. A network administrator configures all printers in an organization to be issued specific IP addresses from a DHCP server. What did the administrator configure to accomplish this? Correct simplified answer according to context. It depends on how you interpret specific IP addresses. If the admin gave each printer a fixed IP address tied to its MAC address, that is static assignment or DHCP reservation. If the admin simply ensured all printers receive their IPs from a specific IP pool, for example, a specific range within a scope, or using custom options to define gateway DNS printer settings, then it's scope options in that specific CompTIA context. So why does the CompTIA guide say scope options? CompTIA often designs questions around terminology used on the exam, which can be different from real-world admin logic. In CompTIA exam language, scope options can include DNS servers, default gateways, custom DHCP options, for example, printer config. In some DHCP systems, like Windows Server, admins can define custom scope options, options 66, 67, etc. That point to printer configuration URLs, tell devices where to find TFTP servers or firmware, and sometimes guide how IP addresses are issued based on device class, for example, all printers in a certain range. So if the study guide interprets specific IPs for printers as configure DHCP options that direct how printers are treated in the DHCP scope, then scope options is technically valid in that narrow CompTIA sense. Quick comparison. Term real world meaning CompTIA usage
Interesting.
best fit for specific exam tip. When taking the CompTIA Network Plus exam, always choose the answer that fits CompTIA's definition, even if real-world networking pros might use a different term. Their questions are based on their own glossary and test language. Would you like to go over a breakdown of DHCP scope options?
No, I'm good.
A virtual private network exists between two sites. The main site delivers Internet Protocol IP addresses to the remote site. A configuration change places the remote site on a different subnet. Which of the following should the IT engineer reconfigure to resolve the issue?
Okay, so we have a VPN that exists between two sites. The main site delivers delivers the IP address to the remote site. The configuration change places the remote site on a different subnet. Ooh, which of the following should the IT engineer reconfigure? He needs to reconfigure. Well, he needs to reconfigure the subnet. The configuration change places the remote site on, oh, no. A configuration change, it places the remote site on a different subnet. Which of the following should the IT engineer reconfigure to resolve this issue? Relay? Yeah. So I was torn between pool, relay, and lease, and here's why. Pool is like the pool in which that the IP addresses are getting pulled from. Like, so like its scope. Relay, if I'm correct, it is how it's going to relay that information back. The lease is how long that you have that IP address. Reservation is that this IP address is reserved forever, or until I say it's not.
Users mention that a video conferencing service is not working properly. The service ties to the company domain name for business purposes.
SRV.
Which domain name system DNS record should the tech investigate to resolve the issue? A network administrator configures all printers in an organization to be issued specific IP addresses from a DHCP server. What did the administrator configure to accomplish this?
Still have a hard time understanding its core concept.
An engineer configures a domain key's identified mail DKIM record to list the names allowed to receive email from a given source. Considering domain name system DNS record types, which of the following records did the engineer configure?
Okay, engineer configures a domain key identifier DKI record to list the names allowed to receive emails from a given source. Oh. No, a record a record is DNS resolving IPv4. This is aliases for domain names. We just went over this. It's got to be text. Yeah.
New workstations set up in the office currently are connected to the network, but do not have an Internet Protocol IP address set. These workstations need to work with applications that are time sensitive. What should the system administrator configure for these applications to function correctly?
Enable DHCP on the NIC. What? New workstations are set up in the office currently are connected to the network. Well, they're connected to the network, but they do not have internet. But they do not have Internet Protocol address set. These workstations need to work with applications that are time sensitive. What should the system administrator configure for the application to function correctly? Configure the correct NTP settings. Point to the correct DNS server. How can you be connected to the... maybe it's physically connected? But do not have Internet Protocol. They don't have an IP address yet.
A server administrator configures a network's internal DNS to set the records for all servers. Users mention that one server in particular is not reachable by name. What should the administrator investigate first?
Not reachable by name is the key. Since it's not reachable by name, it needs to be a recursive reverse lookup, basically. What? Okay, so is forward lookup where it's the name, it's the IP address going to the name, and then the recursive lookup is where it's the name going to the number? Or is it backwards? It's definitely not time to live. And why would it be DNS cache?
Client systems receive IP address configurations via a DHCP server. When negotiating the address information assignment, which of the following are associated with available leases?
T1,
Select 2.
When negotiating, it's talked at T1, T2. T1 is 50%. That's weird. Whatever, I suppose. T1 is when it's 50%, the time is gone. T2 is when it's 85.7. Configure the correct NTP settings. Network time protocol. Oh. These workstations, applications that are time sensitive. So what does it matter that they don't have that they're not, but they do not have IP addresses set? I know it. Okay, but is the time sensitive? That's the thing. NTP time sensitive. Got it.
Forward lookups use a forward lookup zone to return an IP address associated with a host name. In this case, an entry for the particular host was likely missed or contains a typo.
Okay. Oh. A server administrator configures a network's internal DNS to set the record for all servers. Users mention that one server in particular is not reachable by name. What should the administrator investigate first? Okay, this is kind of a dirty question, but this is a very real question. This is a very real question. Because if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I can't reach the server," they're stupid. They don't know. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna forward look. I'm gonna do a forward lookup to see if the person who was unable to contact the server or reach the server did a typo. Okay. That's strange. Anyway. Relay. This is what I want to know. I want to remember what relay is.
A DHCP relay agent can be configured to provide forwarding of DHCP traffic between different subnets. A media access control MAC address reservation is a mapping of a MAC address to a specific IP address within the DHCP server's address pool.
Okay, so that makes sense. Because how else would different devices on different subnets be able to communicate with one another if they didn't have a relay that did a forwarding?
A virtual private network exists between two sites. The main site delivers Internet Protocol IP addresses to the remote site. A configuration change places the remote site on a different subnet. Which of the following should the IT engineer reconfigure to resolve the issue?
Relay, baby.
An engineer needs to update a DNS infrastructure with new host names. Which configuration should the engineer modify with host records that map to IP addresses?
Forward lookup.
New workstations set up in the office currently are connected to the network, but do not have an Internet Protocol IP address set. These workstations need to work with applications that are time sensitive. What should the system administrator configure for these applications to function correctly?
Time sensitive. NTP.
Users mention that a video conferencing service is not working properly. The service ties to the company domain name for business purposes. Which domain name system DNS record should the tech investigate to resolve the issue?
A user mentions that video conferencing. That's our keyword.
A server administrator configures a network's internal DNS to set the records for all servers. Users mention that one server in particular is not reachable by name. What should the administrator investigate first?
Forward lookup. Make sure that person is actually typing it in correctly.
New workstations set up in the office currently are connected to the network, but do not have an Internet Protocol IP address set. These workstations need to work with applications that are time sensitive. What should the system administrator configure for these applications to function correctly?
Whoa, that was weird. I wanted to see. All right, we're on the last one. Okay. I've done a really good job of learning what these cables are.
An administrator is configuring a router from their laptop through a pale blue cable. What type of cable is this?
An administrator is configuring a router from a laptop. It's a console cable.
What solution uses a protocol called WebSockets that enables bidirectional messages to be sent between the server and client without requiring the overhead of separate HTTP requests?
Split tunneling. Then it's full tunneling.
What is the primary purpose of using Secure Shell SSH or Remote Desktop Protocol RDP in the context of remote authentication?
To distribute IP addresses? No. To encrypt the entirety network's data. To start a session over the network. To serve as a primary database for the user? No. No. The whole thing of all this is to be able to have a session over the network.
What is the role of an API in the context of a jump box and automation?
Ooh.
To act as a physical firewall, to reduce the need for secure connections, to manually monitor network traffic, to serve as an interface for automated scripting.
I don't remember what a jump box is.
Which of the following VPN types involves more than 2 sites connecting the remote spokes to a headquarters hub by using static tunnels configured between the hub and each spoke?
Which of the following VPNs types include more than 2 sites? Virtual network computing? No, I bet it was site to site. These VPN ones are killing me.
A network administrator is using a method that enables remote site routers to connect to the hub router using an IPsec tunnel. GRE tunneling, IPsec encryption, and Next Hop Router Protocol NHRP to deploy provisioning to the VPNs. Which of the following terms matches the description of this method?
God, I don't even remember what GRE stands for. That was a guess.
What is a virtual out-of-band management method?
What is a virtual out-of-band management method? Connecting out of band. I feel like okay, using a wireless management interface. What is a virtual out-of-band management method? I took a shot in the dark too.
While on a VPN, an employee sends data over an unsecure network, where the data and original IP address are encrypted. What is this process called?
All right, read it to me.
Clientless VPN requires a client Apple that implements the protocols and authentication methods by the remote desktop VPN gateway. Virtual Network Computing (VNC) allows a site to operate a remote desktop gateway that facilitates access to virtual desktops or individual apps running on the network servers. Split Tunnel allows the client to access the internet directly using its native IP configuration and DNS servers. Full Tunnel allows internet access that is mediated by the corporate network that will alter the client's IP address and DNS servers, and may use a proxy.
Oh man. Almost done, man. Just gotta push through. Gotta push through.
Let's break this question. 2. Simplified answer. Clientless VPN. This is the correct answer based on the use of WebSockets for browser-based remote access without a full VPN client. 3. Analogy. Imagine most conversations, HTTP, are like mailing letters. You write, send, wait for a reply, and repeat. WebSockets are like opening a live phone call. You and the other person can talk in real time, back and forth, without hanging up and redialing each time. A clientless VPN uses this live phone call method so users can securely access internal apps via a web browser without the overhead of a full VPN. 4. In-depth explanation. Clientless VPN allows users to connect to internal resources through a web browser without installing a VPN client. Often uses SSL, TLS, and WebSockets to enable real-time communication between browser and internal services. Supports interactive apps like email, file access, and even remote desktops through the browser.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. With my school and a lot of other things, I've often wondered why if we were just using a VPN without realizing it or whatever. No, it's because everything we have is through web browsers, and those web browsers are saying that what they're doing is secure. So, like, I'm assuming our SSO that we sign into and things like that is a clientless VPN. Interesting.
WebSockets keep the connection persistent and bidirectional, reducing overhead and improving performance. Full tunnel, a VPN mode where all traffic, internal plus internet, is sent through the VPN tunnel. Typically uses IP seeker SSL but not associated with WebSockets. Requires a VPN client. Split tunnel, VPN configuration where only internal traffic goes through the VPN, while internet traffic uses the local network. Like Full Tunnel, it's based on traditional VPN protocols, not WebSockets. Virtual Network Computing (VNC), a remote desktop protocol, not a VPN solution. Uses its own protocol RFB for screen sharing. Doesn't rely on WebSockets. 5. Real-world example or scenario. An employee working remotely uses a browser to access a secure clientless VPN portal provided by their company's firewall appliance, like Cisco ASA or Fortinet. Through the browser, they can open an internal web app or database tool. Behind the scenes, the connection is kept alive with WebSockets, ensuring that any update or response is instantly reflected, without the constant overhead of reloading pages or sending separate HTTP requests. Let me know when you're ready for the next question.
Okay. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Man, that's what I thought it was originally. Okay. Well...
Site-to-site VPN connects two or more private networks automatically. The gateways exchange security information using whichever protocol the VPN is based on.
Okay, so all this talk about VPN really reminds me of, like, I saw this YouTube short of Thor of Pirate Software, and he was basically just like pooping on VPNs and talking about all they do is change your end location, blah blah blah, and like did that thing where he like makes it seem like he knows what he's talking about, or like he's like this huge authoritative figure. And I was, and at the time I saw that, I was in the middle of like doing my A+, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. VPNs are supposed to be a secure tunnel to certain things, so and it encrypts your data. So my VPN, when I turn my VPN on, I'm tunneling to the company that I have my VPN on, and then I'm going out into whatever. So there's a barrier between me and everything else. It's essentially using like my company, but it's not a company. it's not a company I work for that's filtering my stuff. It's what it's like I'm paying for this service. Now, it does also change your end location, but to say that they're worthless is stupid. Okay. All right, I want the analogy. I want the analogy and real world example with this. Next, man, my pinky sucks. I can't type with my pinky to save my life. Think of a hub and spoke model like a wheel. A hub is the center, headquarters. The spokes is the remote site. A site-to-site VPN sets up a private tunnel between each spoke and the hub, just like a spoke connects directly to a wheel center. Site-to-site VPN, which type is used to connect an entire network together, typically between branch offices and central HQ, using static tunnels. Used to connect entire LANs or branch offices to each other, commonly deployed in a hub and spoke model. The hub HQ is connected to each spoke remote site. Individual static tunnels. Traffic between spokes is usually routed through the hub unless mesh is implemented. Okay. So let's read this question one more time. I think I
Which of the
understand.
following VPN types involves more than 2 sites connecting the remote spokes to a headquarters hub by using static tunnels configured between the hub and each spoke?
Okay. This is actually pretty easy if you just know the material, and I guess that's the same for anything. To serve as an interface for automatic scripting.
What is the role of an API in the context of a jump box in automation?
I don't know what a jump box is. No, not nest. Next.
An API, application programming interface, serves as an interface for automated scripting in the context of a jump box in automation, allowing external entities to interact with the appliance programmatically for efficient and secure configurations. An API is used for automation, not manual monitoring of network traffic. APIs do not reduce the need for secure connections, they facilitate secure programmatic interactions. An API is not a physical firewall, it's a software interface for programming interactions. Let's break this. 2. Simplified answer. To serve as an interface for automated scripting, APIs allow scripts and tools to interact with systems securely and programmatically through a jump box. 3. Analogy. Think of an API as a universal remote control for software. If the jump box is your secure middleman server, the API is the remote interface that lets your automation scripts control devices, gather data, or run commands without needing manual login every time. 4. In-depth explanation.
Yeah, give it to me.
API, application programming interface. An API allows external systems like scripts or automation platforms to communicate with and control software or services on a server. In the context of a jump box, a hardened intermediary system used to securely access devices inside a private network. An API can be exposed on the jump box or systems behind it. Automation scripts use the API to push configurations, pull system info, trigger tasks, manage access or deployments. This approach enables secure, centralized, repeatable operations without manual interaction. To act as a physical firewall, APIs are software interfaces, not physical devices or firewalls. To reduce the need for secure connections, API 5. Real-world example or scenario. A DevOps engineer manages multiple cloud servers inside a private network. Instead of manually shing into each server through a jump box, they use an automation script that sends API calls to a service running on the jump box. This script pulls logs, checks system status, and updates configurations, all done securely and efficiently through the API, with no need for human interaction after setup.
Okay,
Let me know when you're ready for the next question.
What is a jump box? A jump box, also known as a jump server or Bastion's host, is a hardened server that acts as a secure intermediary. Man, I'm having a hard time. For accessing other more sensitive. Let me see an example. Public subnet, jump box, private. Interesting. Man, dude, there's so much that goes into this. Okay. To serve as an interface for automated scripting. Okay, I kind of understand that. What is a virtual out-of-bound management method? Using VLANs to isolate management traffic.
Using a VLAN to isolate management traffic creates a virtual separation, enhancing security by limiting access to management interfaces. This method simulates out-of-band management within the in-band network infrastructure. Using a dedicated management cable is incorrect because this is a physical method of connecting to a device for management, not a virtual out-of-band method. Connecting through a console port is incorrect, as connecting through a console port is a physical direct method of device management, not virtual. Using a wireless management interface is incorrect, because wireless management does not inherently provide out-of-band management. It depends on how the network is configured.
Okay. I need to spend some time with VPNs. Like, right now, I'm just regurgitating some of this information. I'm not understanding it.
While on a VPN, an employee sends data over an unsecure network, where the data and original IP address are encrypted. What is this process called?
Tunnel mode.
Tunnel mode is used for communication between VPN gateways across an unsecure network. With ESP, the whole IP pack is encrypted and encapsulated as a diagram with a new IP header. Has no real use in tunnel mode. Transport mode is used to secure communications between the host on a private network. When ESP is applied in transport mode, only the payload data is encrypted. If AAH is used in transport mode, it can provide integrity for the IP header. A network administrator is using a method that enables remote site routers to connect to the hub router using an IPsec tunnel. GRE tunneling, IPsec encryption, and Next Hop Router Protocol NHRP to deploy provisioning to the VPNs. Which of the following terms matches the description of this method?
GRE has to deal with the route. I remember now. Generic route encapsulation. So the answer to this, which of the following terms match the description of the method, is dynamic multi-point VPN.
Dynamic Multi-Point VPN, DMVPN, allows VPNs to be set up dynamically according to traffic requirements and demand. Each site can communicate with all other spokes directly no matter where they are located. This is done by using a method that enables remote site routers to connect to the hub router using an IPsec tunnel, GRE tunneling, IPsec encryption, and Next Hop Router Protocol NHRP to deploy provisioning to the VPNs.
Okay.
What is a virtual out-of-band management method?
Using a VLAN to isolate management traffic. Again, I don't fully understand the core concepts of some of these.
What is the role of an API in the context of a jump box in automation?
To service as an interface for automated scripting. Yeah, I'm about to spend some more time with 3.5.
Which of the following VPN types involves more than 2 sites connecting the remote spokes to a headquarters hub by using static tunnels configured between the hub and each spoke?
Clientless VPN. No, site to site. Crap. This is the one that I kind of understood. I think it's clientless. It was site to site.
What method allows for the use of a dynamic mesh topology between multiple remote sites, effectively setting up direct VPNs, rather than the remote sites having to route traffic via the hub?
Dynamic multi-point VPN.
In a client-to-site VPN configuration, which method allows the client to access the internet directly using its ISP-managed IP configuration, routers, and DNS servers?
A direct tunnel? Dang. Yeah, I did not do well.
Which of the following is also referred to as a router implementation?
Full tunnel? Ooh. I'm not doing well.
What solution uses a protocol called WebSockets that enables bidirectional messages to be sent between the server and client without requiring the overhead of separate HTTP requests?
Clientless VPN? Okay. Hub and spoke is the site to site. I just don't understand. Like, that doesn't make any sense. If I have something that's in the center and I have all these things that are sticking out of it, how is it site to site VPN if I have to go through the hub to get to the next thing? That's not site to site. I need to spend more time on VPNs, but that's not today.
In a client-to-site VPN configuration, which method allows the client to access the internet directly using its ISP-managed IP configuration, routers, and DNS servers?
A split tunnel. And I don't understand what a split tunnel is. I thought I did.
In a split tunnel VPN configuration, the client's connection is divided into 2 separate tunnels.
Yes.
One tunnel connects to the corporate network for accessing internal resources, while the other tunnel allows direct access to the internet using the client's
see, that's what I
ISP-managed IP configuration, routers, and DNS servers.
See, that's what I thought. So a client-to-site VPN configuration, which method allows the client to access the internet directly? Okay. Okay. Split tunnel. Okay.
Which of the following is also referred to as a router implementation? Tunnel mode is used for communication between VPN gateways across an unsecure network. With ESP, the whole IP packet is encrypted and encapsulated as a datagram with a new IP header. Has no real use in tunnel mode. In a client-to-site VPN configuration, which method allows the client to access the internet directly using its ISP-managed IP
Split
configuration, routers, and DNS servers?
It has its VPN tunnel to the network, to the company, and then to the outside.
Which of the following VPN types involves more than 2 sites connecting the remote spokes to a headquarters hub by using static tunnels configured between the hub and each spoke?
Site to site.
While on a VPN, an employee sends data over an unsecure network where the data and original IP address are encrypted. What is this process called?
Tunnel mode.
What solution uses a protocol called WebSockets that enables bidirectional messages to be sent between the server and client without requiring the overhead of separate HTTP requests?
Clientless VPN.
Which of the following VPN types involves more than 2 sites connecting the remote spokes to a headquarters hub
Site-to-site
by using
VPN.
static tunnels configured between the hub and each spoke?
See, right now I'm just kind of like memorizing it, and I don't want to memorize answers to questions. I want to know the actual, like, the depth of it. Like, that's why I go far into it with Chatbot GPT. If I was just trying to memorize things, like, I would have been done a long time ago.
Which of the following is also referred to as a router implementation?
Tunnel mode. Yeah, but I have no sustenance of what tunnel mode is.
In a client-to-site VPN configuration, which method allows the client to access the internet directly using its ISP-managed
This
IP
one I'm starting to
configuration,
understand.
routers, and DNS
The
servers?
client to site, it's a split tunnel, because all a VPN is a tunnel. So you have one tunnel that goes to the company, one tunnel that goes out. All right. Yeah, I did not do well on that one. We'll have to go back and look at that. So tomorrow we're gonna do. Tomorrow's Thursday, and tomorrow we're gonna do section 4, network security. I believe this. I did okay with this one. I don't remember. There's a lot of these that are giving me trouble. I think probably Sunday. I think Sunday I'm gonna do a practice test. Now I don't know if I'm gonna stream that practice test or if I'm just gonna like to be super focused and try to do it by myself. But I'll definitely share those results with you, and that's gonna guide our next set of like studying of what we're gonna do. So yeah, so we've got this going on. If you caught the stream last night, go ahead, go check it out. We played Mario. Tomorrow morning we're gonna be doing network security. Yeah, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, on all of that good stuff. Like, subscribe if you like the content. If there's certain things that you want, if you want the information presented to you in a certain way, let me know and I'll do that. I have a few ideas of what I'm going to do in terms of making some videos and stuff like that. But yeah, that's all I got for us. Yeah, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm going to go eat lunch. I'm hungry. Makala Checo.